In a past life, Shen Yan was paralyzed. My brother found a love letter addressed to me in his book. To placate Shen Yan, my brother lied and told him I had always had a crush on him. If you're willing, she'll marry you at the registry office tomorrow. He took it seriously. What's done cannot be undone. My brother knelt down and begged me. It's just a marriage. Without you, Shen Yan would die. My father also sighed and said, your uncle Shen died saving me. Our family owes him this debt. Shen Yan was completely unaware of all this. A paralyzed person is filled with insecurity and hypersensitivity. The filth covering the bed ground his self-respect into the dirt. All that affection for me turned into daggers piercing his heart. After I cleaned up his mess for him yet again, he completely broke down. With red-rimmed eyes, he screamed at me, Qin Shi, I never forced you to marry me. You brought this on yourself. I don't owe you a damn thing. After being reborn, when my brother knelt before me and begged once more, I quietly took out my marriage certificate. But I'm already married. When I was reborn, April 4th. I repeated the date silently, a chill creeping up from the soles of my feet. Today is the anniversary of Shen Yan's accident. A faint, tinkling sound came from outside the house. Qin Shi, there's a letter for you. My body moved faster than my mind, and I dashed out like a gust of wind. In my previous life, I was asleep in the room. I was sleeping so soundly that this letter of job introduction ended up in my brother's hands. To ease my mind about marrying Shen Yan, he chose to keep it from me. By the time I found out, Shen Yan and I had already gotten our marriage certificate. That day, I sat crouched outside my front door for a whole day. It wasn't until the rain came pouring down that my brother finally opened the door and pulled me inside, clearly annoyed. You're married now. What's with you always running back here? Shen Yan will get the wrong idea. I was soaked to the bone, my clothes clinging to me, wet and cold, but it was nothing compared to the chill in my heart. Where's my letter of introduction? My brother's expression froze for a moment, but he didn't deny it. Sold 700 yuan. I gave it to the Shen family. Shen Yan really needed the money. And don't even think about getting your job back. The girl who bought the position is a relative of the deputy factory director. We can't afford to cross her. My mind was buzzing at that moment. I can't remember the look I gave them anyway. My brother was furious. It's because you're always scheming. Why else would we have to hide it from you? He started listing all my faults, trying to prove he was right. When the Shen family built a new cabinet and Dad went to help move it, you tried to stop him. When the Shens had a poor harvest and Dad shared some of our grain with them, you made a fuss. Every single time you see Shen Yan, you pull a long face, acting as if someone owes you something. You need to understand that it's us who owe them a life. For a debt of gratitude this immense, nothing they ask of us is too much. It's only because the Shen family is magnanimous that they don't hold it against you. You should start acting more reasonably and stop making things difficult for me and Dad. But that cabinet is solid wood, incredibly heavy. It's a struggle even for two people to move. Dad's back is bad. How could he possibly lift it? I wanted to go get help, but Dad wouldn't let me. He said, Aunt Shen hardly ever asks me for a favor. If I turned her down, what kind of person would that make me? In the end, the two of us carried it together. Aunt Shen directed us from the sidelines, stepping in now and then to offer a token hand, only to be shooed away by my dad, who pretended to be annoyed, worried my dad's old back injury might flare up. I took on most of the weight. My arms were covered in dark bruises and so swollen I couldn't lift them for days, but the cabinet was still too heavy. And my dad looked pretty rough after moving it. Afraid I'd blame Aunt Shen, he just gritted his teeth and bore it. I was both furious and heartbroken, and I threw a huge fit. My brother, who had just come home, happened to see it and scolded me for being inconsiderate. Ever since Uncle Shen passed away that year, our family has been giving half of our grain harvest to the Shen family. I never had a single complaint about it. That is, until Shen Yan got a job. My father went to great lengths to secure that job for him, spending our family's entire savings. The salary was 38 yuan a month. For the sake of his job, I had no choice but to give up the high school I had just been admitted to and instead enroll in a tuition-free vocational school. That year, when my father, as usual, carried grain over to the Shen family, I was fuming inside and made a few sarcastic remarks. Shen Yan is already on a state salary. Does he really need this bit of grain? Dad, times have changed. What you earn farming for a whole year can't match what he makes in a single month. They scolded me for being immature and too calculating. People say the Shen family is just a widow and her orphan child, so we should help them if we can. But I just feel bad for him. He's working himself too hard. He seems to have forgotten that after my mom passed, he was the one who raised my brother and me all by himself. Aunt Shen complains about her aching back the moment she sets foot in the fields. By the end of the year, her work points are pitifully low. To earn more work points to share with the Shen family, my father had to work himself to the bone, so I struck a deal with Aunt Shen. I agreed to the marriage, and in return, the debt between our families would be considered settled. When my father and brother found out, they were furious. They forced me to go to the Shin family, apologize, and take back everything I said. I laid down my own ultimatum. If they really forced me to apologize, then my agreement to marry Shin Yan was off the table. I wouldn't lift a finger to help him. No matter what happened, my father knew I was a man of my word. He gave in the end, yet he sat by the door, weeping all night, muttering, "Brother, I've failed you. I raised such an unfilial son, I had their best interests at heart, yet I became the family's greatest disgrace too." My heart finally settled back into place as I took the letter of introduction from the postman. Hearing the commotion, my brother came running out of the kitchen, his face beaming with joy, still clutching a spatula in his hand. "Has the job offer letter arrived?" I denied it and tucked the letter of introduction deeper into my coat. My brother gave me an annoyed rap on the forehead. "What? You don't even trust your own brother?" Just as I was about to say something, someone called my name from behind. I turned around. It was Shin Yan. My mind went blank with a buzz. Shouldn't he be at the mine right now? It was just today, while on patrol, that a massive boulder had rolled down and crushed his legs. Could it be he's been reborn too? Shin Yan looked at me with a smile, closing the distance between us in a few quick strides. He extended the walnut cookie in his hand toward me. "Here, have it. Wasn't this your favorite treat as a kid? You'd even sneak it." Terrified I'd snatch it from you, as if recalling something amusing. The mirth in his eyes grew so intense it seemed ready to spill over. I suppressed my disgust and took a step back to avoid his hand. Seeing this package of walnut cookies, it reminded me, in my past life, there was an identical package sitting on the table in the main hall. It must have been him who came by. He didn't wake me and just left. He was taken aback for a moment, thinking I was just being shy. With an amused look, he pushed the cookies into my hand. "Go ahead and eat. You were always the most eager for treats, even as a kid." My brother chuckled and teased me. "You always loved fighting with Shanyan over food." They went back and forth, reminiscing about my childhood antics as if they were the fondest memories. 3. It's crystal clear. When we were kids, Shin Yan loved to pick on me the most. When Uncle Shin had his accident, I was only 3, an age where I understood nothing of the world. All I cared about back then was eating. I'd even pick up an ant off the path to see how it tasted. Shin Yan was a few years older than me, old enough to understand things. From the fragments of adult conversation, he learned that his father died saving mine. He resents our family. In my father's presence, he only dared to maintain a cold demeanor, but with me, he showed no such restraint. "You just won't be satisfied until you've made me cry. How come you have a father?" But the truth is, out of guilt, my father gave him all his favoritism. I was always the one who got the short end of the stick. Times were tough back then, and meat was a rare luxury in our house. On the rare occasion we had meat, Aunt Shin would bring Shin Yan over. My father slid the plate of meat in front of them. I was so desperate for a bite that I reached out with my chopsticks, only for my father to wrap the back of my hand with his. I never learned my lesson. Even after getting hit and crying, I'd still dare to reach for the food again. By the end of the meal, the back of my hand was swollen. It took me quite a few hard lessons to finally remember. All the good things in this house belong to Shin Yan. I'm not allowed to touch them. Shin Yan just loves to eat his delicious food right in front of me, clearly enjoying my awkward predicament. He says it makes the meal taste better. I stood there, fidgeting with the hem of my clothes, watching him eat with longing eyes. My head was practically dipping into his bowl. If you got too close, he'd flick you on the forehead. I knew I should leave, but my legs just wouldn't obey. The meat smelled so good. On the rare occasions he was in a good mood, he'd toss me a piece of meat if I got on all fours and barked like a dog. I was just a child, my whole world consumed by the thought of meat, oblivious to the humiliation of the gesture. I happily did as I was told. I took the meat and nibbled a tiny bite, my eyes crinkling shut with pure bliss. I saved the last 2 bites for Dad and my brother. The neighbor lady dropped by, took pity on me, and secretly slipped me a small piece of walnut cookie. Her daughter, who had married into the city, brought this back for her, but she couldn't bear to eat it. I sneaked out, clutching it like a treasure, but Shin Yan spotted me anyway. He and a few older kids surrounded me and snatched the walnut cookie my aunt had given me. He deliberately held it high above his head. Frustrated, I stood on my tiptoes, trying to reach it. "That's mine, it's mine." With a nasty grin, he stuffed the walnut cookie into his mouth and leaned in to chew it right by my ear. "Everything you have belongs to me. It's what your family owes me." Once they made me cry, they started running circles around me, chanting a weird, off-key nursery rhyme. The dust they kicked up mixed with my tears and snot, smearing it all over my face. They just roared with laughter. When I was little and got bullied, I was too scared to tell the grown-ups. Now when I bring it up, they find it absolutely hilarious. "Shin Yan only teases you because he likes you." Well, I don't find it funny. So, it's my turn to dislike Shinyan, for Shinyan didn't stay for long. He shoved the walnut cookie into my hand and hurried away. I didn't stop him, didn't even utter a word of warning, just watched him fade into the distance. I returned to my room in silence and began to pack my things just in case. I stole the family's household registration booklet. The sooner we get this job sorted, the better. Once I calmed down, I felt a dull, throbbing pain in my temple. A distant memory surfaced. I remembered it was harvest season, worried about my dad's back injury. I took on all the work in our fields, only to find out he'd gone straight over to help out in the Shin family's plot. Exhausted and upset, I fell ill right away and spent a full day and night in bed before I started to feel better. At that moment, they interpreted my packing up as an act of defiance. My father walked over, his back slightly hunched, with one hand supporting his waist. "Sweetheart, are you still feeling unwell?" The concern in his eyes seemed genuine. I gave a slight, wry smile, said nothing, and walked straight to the door. My brother grew irritated. "Stop right there, Dad's worried about you. What's with the attitude? You've taken this sulking far enough." But when he met my calm, faintly mocking gaze, his words died in his throat. I didn't look back. 5. After finishing the onboarding paperwork, I breathed a huge sigh of relief. The factory had dormitories. I put my things away and headed straight to the supply co-op to get some essentials. Walking down the street, someone called my name again. "Chin-shi." My body froze. When I realized it wasn't Shin Yan's voice, I let out a sigh of relief. Seeing his face, I was stunned for a moment, as if a lifetime had passed. "But according to the timeline of this life, we just met a few days ago." Suyuza bounced over cheerfully, grinning with a mouthful of bright white teeth. "Didn't you go home? When did you get here? Are you here to buy something? When are you going back?" The barrage of questions made my head spin. He was like an overly attached puppy that finally waited for its owner to come home. His enthusiasm was suffocating. Distant memories come flooding back, vivid and clear. He sat behind me and always pestered me to talk. If I ignored him, he'd pretend to have lost his pen, then gently tap my shoulder with his finger and whisper, asking to borrow one. Just managing to exchange a few words with me was enough to keep him happy for ages. My classmates told me that Suyuza came from a well-off family, with a father who was a factory director. He was just at school to have fun, but I was different, so I always kept a cold and deliberate distance from him. A fleeting crush is nothing to take seriously, but at this moment, a preposterous idea popped into my head. Since they're bound to force me to marry Shin Yan anyway, what difference does it make who I marry? Seeing that I had been silent for so long, Suyuza trailed off, feeling guilty. Did I talk too much and upset you?" "No." I shook my head and smiled. "Do you still mean what you said?" "Absolutely," Suyuza chimed in hastily, only realizing what he'd said after the words were out. He scratched his head. "But, which line are you talking about?" He was such a chatterbox, always having endless things to say the moment he saw her, that he genuinely couldn't remember which specific line it was. "Date me with the intention of marriage." Suyuza could hardly believe his ears, but the real surprise was yet to come. "If you're willing, let's skip the dating part and get married directly." Suyuza's jaw dropped. I thought of something, frowned, and added, "It's best if we do it today." Even with a bright red marriage certificate in his hands, Suyuza was still in a daze. I still feel a bit awkward thinking about what just happened. I never expected the clerk who stamped our certificates to be Suyuza's aunt. Thinking I was being coerced, she immediately went after Suyuza and gave him a good thrashing. In her eyes, no one would ever take a fancy to her good-for-nothing nephew, let alone such a lovely young lady. It was only after my repeated explanations that she finally believed me. He stamped the papers for us in a flash, as if afraid I'd change my mind. I was heading back to the factory, with Suyuza trailing behind me, listlessly kicking at the pebbles on the ground. "Honey, my dad bought me a courtyard house ages ago. When are you coming to live there with me?" He was no fool. He'd known all along she had married him with an ulterior motive, but what did it matter? He's a total deadbeat. Aside from being decent looking and coming from a good family, what else has he got going for him? He was thrilled that she saw something in him to get such a beautiful wife for nothing. As for what that something was, Suyuza didn't dare to ask or bring it up. Suyuza hung his head, looking just like a pitiful little puppy. My heart softened, and I ruffled his hair, saying, "Tomorrow, it's too late today. After all, we have a tough battle to fight tonight." 6. In the dead of night, lightning flashed and thunder roared as a heavy rain poured down. Bang, bang, bang. The dormitory door was knocked on. I was not the least bit surprised. This place isn't exactly huge, so finding me wouldn't be too difficult, so I knew hiding was pointless. They had 1,000 ways to force me into marrying Shin Yan. The Shin family held the moral high ground. No one would take my side. My brother looked at me as if I were his savior. He dragged me along urgently, running without a care for whether I'd get soaked. "Hurry, hurry." Something's happened to Shenyan, you're the only one who can save him now. After regaining consciousness and finding he couldn't feel his legs, Shenyan realized he was crippled and began threatening to kill himself. After a long time of everyone trying to talk him down, my brother happened to say, Cece has loved you for so long, how could you bear to leave her to live alone in this world? Shenyan settled into an unexpected calm. She doesn't like me, Shenyan mocked himself, otherwise, why wouldn't she come to see me? Seeing it had an effect, my brother immediately said excitedly, she just doesn't know, I'll go find her right now. When I entered, Shenyan was lying quietly in the hospital bed, his face pale, his hollow eyes staring blankly out the window. He was waiting for me. Shenyan, hearing my voice, he turned his head with a slight, sluggish delay. A flicker of joy passed through those vacant eyes. My brother chuckled and gave me a gentle shove forward. See, I wasn't lying. The moment I told her you were hurt, she rushed over in such a panic she didn't even bother with an umbrella. Aunt Shin gave me a look of heartfelt relief, wiped her tears, and patted Shenyan's shoulder. Xiao, she says once you're discharged from the hospital, we'll go get the marriage license. Our two families will throw a proper banquet and welcome her into the family with all the fanfare she deserves. Let's see who would dare look down on you then. Shenyan's hopeful gaze settled on me, as if seeking confirmation. Time seemed to freeze as everyone held their breath, waiting for my answer. After a long pause, I slowly began to speak, feigning difficulty. While I truly sympathize with you, at this point, I let out a sigh. I'm already married. A single sentence struck like a bolt from the blue. Several pairs of disbelieving eyes turned toward me. 7. My brother was the quickest to react, pulling me out of the hospital room. Without a word, he slapped me. Luckily, I was prepared and dodged it. He didn't dare to scold me loudly, but his lowered voice was seething with anger. What's with the attitude again? I don't mind your usual little tantrums, but Shenyan is in a fragile state right now. Don't you know a single word from you could be the death of him? I said with an inexplicable tone. And how do you know what I'm saying isn't true? True about what? Getting married? My brother scoffed. He didn't believe a word of it. They just thought it was an excuse for me not wanting to help. Go apologize to Shenyan now, smooth things over with him, and patch this whole mess up. He spoke earnestly. I know you don't like him, but think about Dad, think about Uncle Shen. There are some things you can't just avoid because you don't like them. You can't be that selfish. I wasn't given a chance to refuse. My brother pushed me right into Shenyan's hospital room in an instant. We were the only two people left in the hospital room. Shenyan glanced at me, his eyes red, and turned his head away. His tone was cold and hard. Qinshi, I'm not your dog, to be summoned and dismissed at your whim. If you don't like me, just say it. No one's forcing you to. He's waiting for me to coax him. I pretended not to see it and nodded earnestly. Well, I'll just say it then. I really don't like you. I never have, not from the start. My brother lied to you because he was worried you'd take it hard, but I'm not lying. I'm telling you the truth. I'm married. Shenyan's lips tightened into a thin line, remaining silent. Just when I thought he understood, he spoke coldly. Do you get a kick out of messing with me? I let out a bitter laugh. If I hadn't left in such a hurry, I would have brought our marriage certificate with me. I can't believe they're all so unreasonable. Do I have to bring my man here for you to believe me? Hearing this, Shenyan's attitude softened, no longer as icy as before, and a hint of amusement even crept into his voice. All right then, let's see you conjure a man out of thin air. Seeing her so desperate to prove she was married to a man who didn't exist, Shenyan felt his anger begin to dissipate. He even felt a twinge of regret for getting into a fight with her. It all seemed so childish now. What man could possibly be in her life? Shenyan knew the truth all too well. Qinshi was beautiful, but had a cold demeanor. Apart from that clingy nuisance, Suyuza, who was always stuck to her like glue, there were hardly any men who could exchange more than a word or two with her. As for Suyuza, Qinshi didn't care for such a noisy person. If she had, they would have been together long ago. Having come to this realization, Shenyan's heart settled completely. She's just giving him the cold shoulder, probably over the business with Uncle Chen helping out at their place. Shenyan's calm and unruffled demeanor made me feel like I was punching a pillow. Utterly frustrating. Shenyan was in high spirits, and my brother thought I had managed to appease him as requested. I didn't spell it out. If possible, I'd rather not bring another man in front of Shenyan to prove a point. If I push him over the edge, I'll be the one to blame. 8. Of course, things never go the way I want them to. 1 month later, Shenyan was discharged from the hospital. For several days in a row, they were waiting to ambush me at the factory gate. Failing to catch me, they eventually found out through inquiries that I had moved in with Suyuza. My father's eyes were red with rage, his hand trembling as he pointed at me. What kind of nonsense is this? A young woman like you moving into a man's house without a clear reason? Aunt Shin's face turned ashen. I thought this girl I'd watched grow up had decent character, To think she'd be so unruly even before marrying Shanyan. Our Shin family has no use for a daughter-in-law who doesn't know her place. My father listened, his face flushed with shame, and repeatedly assured her, "Sis, I will give you a proper explanation for this matter." Even after all this, they still refused to believe I was already married. Suyuza shielded me behind him and pulled our marriage certificate from his jacket. He carries it with him. What do you mean unclear? We're legally married, with a stamped certificate even though you're my father-in-law. I have to say this, is it fair to sacrifice your own daughter's entire life for some so-called debt of gratitude? Did you ever ask her if she was willing? I mentioned the family situation to Suyuza before, even though he didn't ask. I chose to tell him the reason I married him. After I finished speaking, I was anxious for a few seconds. Before I could get his reply, I looked up and saw that he was actually crying. He didn't mind that I had used him, he just ached for everything I had been through. My father snatched the marriage certificate and, without even looking at it, tore it to shreds. I had never seen him so angry before. Arranged marriages and matchmakers be damned. I don't care about any marriage certificate. If I don't agree, it's not happening. You're coming home with me. With that, he tried to reach past Yuza and grabbed my arm. Suyuza, no longer caring about the marriage certificate he had treasured for so long, now lying in pieces, started grappling with my father. Well, what could he do? The other guy was his father-in-law. He couldn't very well throw a punch, one pulling, another blocking. Chaos erupted instantly. My dad is incredibly stubborn. He wouldn't listen to a word, dead set on taking me away. Enough. Shin Yan sat in his wheelchair, his hands clenched tight, veins bulging on his forehead. He didn't know how much effort it took to restrain himself. Shin Yan looked at me, his voice strained. I just want to ask you one thing, about the marriage. Did he force you? If you say yes, I can pretend none of this ever happened. I was about to say no, but a sudden wave of nausea washed over me. I retched dryly. Someone blurted out, "You're not pregnant, are you?" The room fell dead silent. Shin Yan's tightly clenched fist suddenly went slack. There was nothing left to say, he already knew the answer. With red-rimmed eyes, Shin Yan took his mother's hand. "Let's go, Mom, I'll stand on my own feet one day. There's no need to beg someone to marry me." He had his pride. 9 over here. Suyuza was both elated and panicked. Seeing how distressed I was, he scooped me up and rushed to the hospital, leaving behind a room full of people in somber spirits. My brother hesitated for a moment. "Dad, I'll go check on Cece." "Don't you dare go. The Chin family has no room for such an ungrateful person. From now on, consider yourself without a sister." Chin Nan let out a sigh. He wasn't sure if he had done the right thing, but in that critical moment, he couldn't afford to think too much. When weighing his sister's happiness against his sworn brother's life, of course the life was more important, not to mention the debt of gratitude they owed to the Shin family. Besides, Cece marrying Shin Yan doesn't necessarily mean she'll be unhappy. It might be tough, but no one knows better than him how deeply Shin Yan loves her. She's just too willful. Thinking of his sister's cold, utterly detached gaze just now, Chin Nan's heart still gave a painful twinge. He hoped she would understand him. 10 After the examination, the doctor confirmed that I was indeed pregnant. Suyuza was so overjoyed that he kept circling around me, chattering nonstop. "This is our child. Can it really be ours?" Just like that. "We've created a child. This is incredible. I've never raised a child before. What do I do? What does he eat when he's born? He certainly can't eat regular food." I couldn't take it anymore. "Shut up." He was quiet for a moment, then started pacing around anxiously again. "What if my adult father-in-law shows up again? Would he force you to get an abortion and divorce me?" The thought sent a shiver down his spine. "No, we should move in with my parents for a while. If things get ugly, my mom alone is worth 10 men." "All right," I reassured him. "They probably won't come back. Shin Yan is far too proud a man. He wouldn't stoop to chasing after a married woman, as long as he gives a clear refusal. My father and brother wouldn't force me to marry him. After we got married in my past life, the phrase he said most often was, "I never forced you to marry me." He said he gave me a choice. What Shin Yan called giving me a choice was stopping the registrar just as the official seal was about to come down on the marriage certificate. He asked me, "Are you sure? It's not too late to change your mind?" Behind me, my father and brother kept urging me on with their eyes. My father's neck was still wrapped in bandages. That was from a few days ago, when I refused to marry Shin Yan. In a fit, my father grabbed a cleaver from the corner of the room and held it against his own neck. He said if Shin Yan died, he would give his own life to Shin's father in return. I had no other choice. With a nod, the official seal came down, and a faint smile finally appeared on Shin Yan's face. In the 3rd year of our marriage, I was drugged, locked in Shin Yan's room. He also said he'd give me a choice, that he'd stop if I wasn't willing. that he wouldn't force me, so Shen Yan didn't move the entire time. I was even the one who took his pants off. There I was, a grown woman, fumbling my way through the whole thing. He just watched quietly, watched as I came to my senses and fell apart. That's just the kind of person Shen Yan is, hypocritical and selfish. He knows full well I don't like him and that I have no other choice, yet he still puts on this act, pretending to give me a choice that doesn't even exist, as if that somehow absolves him of any debt to me. Also, he can claim the moral high ground and protect his pathetic sense of dignity. 11. Just as I thought, Shen Yan didn't bother me anymore. When I was 5 months pregnant, I learned from Sue's father that the South had opened up, and many people were considering going into business. I wasn't one to shy away from a challenge, so I started turning the idea over in my mind. A government job is secure, sure, but with how fast things are changing, who knows if it'll stay that way. Besides, the Su family is well off. They don't need my measly few dozen dollars a month. Way back on the day we got our marriage certificate, Suyuza gave me the wife fund he'd been saving since childhood, a whole several $1,000s. Suyuza was horrified when he heard, "Darling, you're still pregnant. Can't you wait until after the baby's born to start all this?" I didn't say yes, but I didn't say no either. Just a few days later, I slapped my densely written business plan down on the dining table. The people around the table exchanged bewildered glances. My mother-in-law, Mrs. He, was the first to speak her mind, a woman of action herself. She admires go-getters who aren't afraid to take the plunge. I agree, with the country now vigorously developing its economy, diving into business is a way to answer the national call. Suyuza was so anxious he could feel a blister forming at the corner of his mouth. Casting a pleading look toward his father, "Old Mister," Su cleared his throat softly, "I have no objections either. If the money isn't enough, I have some here, feel free to use it." And so it was settled. That very night, I packed my bags. Suyuza buzzed around my ear like a persistent little bee trying to win back my heart. I remained unmoved. Perhaps having died once, I've become much more willful in my actions, doing whatever I want the moment I think of it. It's not that I haven't considered going after having a child, but once the baby is born, I'd worry they're too young and can't be left alone. Seeing the big blister on Suyuza's lip, I couldn't help but chuckle. "Don't worry, aren't you here? Weren't you quite the fighter? Mom said you were the ringleader of the kids back in the day." Suyuza's ears flushed red. "All right, I will definitely protect you and the child." In the end, I didn't make it. My brother showed up the day before I was supposed to leave. He said Shen Nian attempted suicide, and after waking up, suddenly insisted on seeing me. 12. Ever since he got back that day, Shen Nian had been stewing with a quiet fury. He was determined to stand on his own 2 feet again. Ignoring his doctor's orders, he forced himself into rehab exercises before his leg injury had fully healed. The recovery was taking too long. He couldn't wait any longer. The consequence of this was that the wound became inflamed and infected, ultimately leading to the amputation of both legs. The infected wound caused Shen Xinyan to run a persistent high fever. He had a very long dream. In the dream, he married Chen Shi, just as he had always wished. After the wedding, Chen Shi was cold and distant towards him. There was no intimacy between them. Even a simple hug felt like an impossible wish. She always kept him at arm's length. This was not how someone who truly cared for another person should act. Shen Yan has only ever liked Chen Shi, from childhood until now. The irony is, she's the coldest person. Thankfully, she treats everyone the same way. Shen Yan secretly rejoiced, thinking it was just as well. No one would compete with him for her. He was at a complete loss for what to do. He could only tread carefully, trying to please her in the hope of receiving some response. Even the sweetest dream must one day shatter. By chance, he overheard Chen Shi arguing with Chen Nan and realized their so-called marriage was nothing but a sham. Chen Shi never really liked him. She only married him out of pity, settling for him out of a sense of obligation. Shen Yan could no longer lie to himself. He didn't dare to pierce that thin veil of pretense. He was a coward, afraid that Chen Shi would truly leave him. Once he looked past his own bias, Shen Yan realized how obvious Chen Shi's lack of affection truly was. She even seemed to dislike him. Sometimes, her gaze would land on his disfigured legs like a needle, piercing Shen Yan until he bled inside. What was she thinking? That he was disgusting. Shen Yan couldn't take it either. He became sensitive and irritable. He smashed everything in sight to pieces. No matter what he did, Chen Shi's face remained that same indifferent mask, utterly devoid of emotion. Love can turn to hatred in the blink of an eye. Shen Yan began to act out childishly against her, hoping to see any expression on her face other than indifference. Even anger would do. One night, he got up in the middle of the night to get a drink of water. The water in the glass was cold. In summer, it's perfectly normal. Our household never had the habit of boiling water for drinking, but Shen Yan couldn't stand to see Chen Shi sleeping so peacefully. He threw a fit, demanding hot water to drink. He shouted himself hoarse. She got up, glanced at him, ignored him, turned off the light, and went back to sleep. That look again. Shen Yan suddenly went berserk, smashing everything within reach. He hadn't expected the cup to fly straight at Qin Shi. She couldn't dodge in time, and a gash opened on her face, blood streaming down. He froze, his tantrum ceasing. He sat there in a daze for half the night. In the end, the cut left a scar on Qin Shi's face. Every time he looked at it, Shen Yan was filled with self-reproach. After that, he too fell silent. Shen Yan wanted to break the silence, but he couldn't take that first step. He had lost his courage. The peace was shattered in the 3rd year of their marriage. His mother, eager for a grandchild, spiked their food with drugs. His mind was clearer than Qin Shi's. Reason told him he should push her away, yet, when her warm, soft body pressed against him, Shen Yan's reason completely crumbled. Her entire soul trembled. She had never been this close to him before, like a man who had wandered the desert for too long, glimpsing a clear spring at the brink of death. For Shen Yan, it was like drinking sweet nectar. He thought with a pang of shame, would she treat him better if they had a child just as he had wished? Qin Shi was indeed pregnant. An immense wave of joy crashed over Shen Yan. It felt utterly surreal. Qin Shi couldn't accept this child. She said the very thought of how it was conceived made her sick. Her words were too blunt, and Shen Yan's heart ached so much he curled into a ball. His heart ached for this unborn child, already despised by its own mother before it could even enter the world. Shen Yan refused to be a useless burden any longer and struggled to stand up. Finally, when Qin Shi was 6 months pregnant, a miracle happened. Shen Yan stood on his own 2 feet. The baby would occasionally kick her belly, and Shen Yan watched with a longing gaze, wanting to reach out and feel it, but meeting her look of disgust, Shen Yan could only withdraw his hand. Perhaps the presence of the child had softened her heart. Shen Yan remembered that day, Qin Shi sitting beneath the persimmon tree laden with fruit, her expression gentle. She said with a smile, "Go on, give it a touch." The beautiful dream ended right there. Shen Yan woke up. She was nowhere to be seen, and his heart felt hollow. He was throwing a fit, demanding to see Qin Shi. The wound on his wrist began to bleed again from his struggling. Memories from 2 lifetimes clashed violently in his mind. No, this can't be right. How could Qin Shi marry someone else? Everything was finally getting better. Why did he have to wake up? Shen Yan was desperate to see Qin Shi. 13. Suyuza came with me. Shen Yan didn't seem to notice him, just smiled while looking at my belly. Shi, was it well behaved today? Did it give you any trouble? As if it still belonged to him. This bizarre behavior instantly made me think that Shen Yan had also been reborn. Suyuza was thoroughly creeped out by his laughter and shielded me behind him. Of course my child is well behaved. Shen Yan's expression changed abruptly, his emotions flaring up. What nonsense are you spouting? This is my and Cece's child. It has nothing to do with you. Gasping for breath, he stared at me intently. Cece, is this punk bothering you again? Don't worry, I'll teach him a lesson right now. He tried to stand up, and in the next moment, the empty pant leg appeared before his eyes, as if mocking him. Shen Yan, have you forgotten? The person I used to be was already killed by your own hands. Those few, airy words left Shen Yan frozen on the spot. Dead? Qin Shi is dead. Yes, she died on the eve of the Lunar New Year. She took the child with her. It was a girl. Her tiny nose and little mouth melted his heart. She looked just like her mother when he was delivered. He was blue all over and didn't make a sound. How cruel she was, to personally snuff out everything in the moment of his greatest happiness. 14. Shen Yan took his own life at the funeral. Aunt Shen's tears had run dry, her eyes swollen like walnuts. I sighed softly. Perhaps this was retribution. The words were spoken so softly, a mere wisp of a breeze could have scattered them, yet she heard them all the same. Her head snapped up, and her eyes met mine across the crowd. Everyone knew Uncle Shen died saving my father, but few ever spoke of how he actually died. In my previous life, I stumbled upon the truth by chance. That was a year of famine, and the villagers' food stores had run completely dry. Even the weeds by the roadside had been pulled clean, leaving the ground bare and barren, without a speck of green in sight. My father led a hunting expedition deep into the mountains. Uncle Shen wanted to go too, but my father wouldn't allow it. The team was made up of tall, sturdy men, and even the least capable among them had some useful skills. Uncle Shen used to be a teacher, a man of slender build. After the famine, he was reduced to a mere skeleton. Going back into the mountains now would likely be a one-way trip. To everyone's surprise, he secretly followed them. On the way, he stepped into a trap that had been set, howling in pain, which is how he was finally discovered. It wouldn't have been right to just leave him there, so my father had no choice but to carry him on his back. The smell of blood attracted a wild beast. My father, alone and weighed down by Uncle Shen, fell behind the group and was pursued by a black bear. The two of them fell to the ground knowing he was a dead man. Uncle Shen simply held the bear back to buy my father time to escape. His last words were for my father to take care of his wife and children. My father was a man of his word, and Aunt Shen knew it. She shrewdly pinned all the blame on my father, and he dutifully took the fall after all. These years, who can clearly remember what happened back then? I only know my father owes the Shen family a life. 15. With the matter settled, I hurriedly took Suyuza and headed south. If we don't go now, she really will give birth. 3 months later, I gave birth to my daughter without any complications. The moment she was placed in my arms, she opened her eyes were misty, and she nestled against me, whimpering softly as if feeling wronged. Her tiny, soft hand gripped my finger tightly, and another little finger wriggled its way in. Not to be outdone, I looked up, and the man gave a silly grin. 16. In this life, I have been truly happy. Memories of my past life have grown hazy and indistinct. After Shen Yan died, my father and brother never contacted me again, that is, until a phone call came. My father was gravely ill, and he wanted to see me. By then, my daughter was already 3 years old. I wasn't planning on taking her, but my brother froze the moment he saw her. When he came to pick us up, you should take her. Dad will be over the moon. Sure enough, as soon as we walked in, my father looked at my daughter and tears just kept streaming down his face. She's the spitting image of your mother. My expression turned cold. I was about to say that if it weren't for you, my mother wouldn't have died, but facing a dying man, I ultimately held back those harsh words. My mother died during the famine years. After Uncle Shen passed away, Aunt Shen would often bring Shen Yan to our house to cry. Once they had cried their fill, the two of them would leave, their hands full of food. In the middle of the night, I would always be woken by hunger, my stomach cramping painfully. Even the children didn't have enough to eat, let alone the adults. To save food for us, she secretly ate white clay, and her stomach swelled until she died. My father's tears flowed more and more, and his voice grew faint. He beckoned to his daughter. Could you call me Grandpa, just once? My daughter glanced at me, her little mouth shut tight, saying nothing. My father's hand fell limply, and he let out his final breath. I regret it, my girl, I'm so sorry. His body grew still, and all fell silent. My brother, his eyes rimmed red, saw us out. He hesitated, words on the tip of his tongue, but ultimately let them go. Finally, he brought up the matter of Aunt Shen. Only then did I realize she was dead. Shen Yan's death devastated her. In a state of delirium, she fled into the mountains, where she was killed by wild beasts. When they found her, only half of her body remained, torn apart. Do I still have the right to call myself your brother? As we were parting, he asked me. I shook my head. That hasn't been the case for a long time. Everything settled into calm. I took my daughter's hand and walked away. TSK. A sedan pulled up right in front of us with an arrogant swagger. A man in a sharp suit stepped out, his long legs drawing the attention of the crowd. Daddy. His daughter scampered over and wrapped her arms around his leg. He picked up the child and gave me a goofy grin. Let's go home, dear. I smiled too. Okay. The end. Story 2. I had a threatened miscarriage and rushed to the hospital to try and save the pregnancy. I overheard Quan Yechen tell the doctor, just terminate the fetus in Su Jin's womb. He paused before continuing, as for Feifei, you must ensure she delivers the baby safely. After all, it's the future heir of the Quan family. Under no circumstances should Su Jin find out about this. Devise a proper recovery plan for her after the miscarriage. I was utterly devastated. My heart felt as if it were being torn apart. On the day he proposed, Quan Yechen covered the entire street with roses and hired a top superstar just to perform Marry You Today for me. He once booked 20,000 drones to light up the sky over Haicheng with my portrait, wishing me a happy birthday. The man who kept professing his love for me is now, for the sake of another woman, trying to kill the child I worked so hard to conceive. I signed the divorce papers, embarked on a journey around the world, and cut all ties with him for good. 1. The rain was pouring. Heartbroken and lost, I walked into the downpour, still in my hospital gown. Blood mingled with rainwater on the ground, but the cramping pain in my lower abdomen was nothing compared to the agony in my heart. A doctor found me and screamed, "Someone, come quick. Something's happened to Miss Sue." Quan Yechen rushed over and grasped my hand, his own trembling. "Darling," he said, "we can try for a child again later, in time." I searched his eyes for any sign of betrayal or cruelty, but his pained expression revealed no flaw. I gently withdrew my hand. "No, there will never be a child of ours again." As he leaned in to kiss my cheek, the sight of the vivid mark on his neck instantly made me sick. Seeing me turn my face away, he coaxed gently, "I made you some black chicken soup. Have a little." The moment he opened the bag, he quickly closed it again. "It's a bit cold, let me heat it up for you." Truth be told, I had already noticed the character Shui pasted on it. A few minutes later, he returned. I pulled the covers over myself and pretended to be asleep. He closed the door and spoke softly into his phone in the hallway. Yeah, I'll be there to keep you company soon. Don't fuss. As the sound of footsteps faded away, I struggled to get out of bed. In a nearby hospital room, Quan Yechen was feeding Shui Feifei some soup. Her belly was very large, as if she were 7 or 8 months pregnant. The daughter who was taken back by the Shui family from the Su family a decade ago has actually reappeared in Haicheng. She saw me through the glass window, then turned away, pretending nothing was wrong as she continued to enjoy the care of another woman's husband. I opened the door. A flicker of panic flashed in Quan Yechen's eyes before he quickly stood up to support me. You just had a miscarriage, you shouldn't be up. The 4 bag is empty, and the nurse isn't here. Feifei, it's been 10 years, you're going to be a mother, so where's your husband? Shui Feifei smiled at me. Sister Su, I'm pregnant out of wedlock, please don't laugh at me. I stared at the bowl of black chicken soup as Quan Yechen pushed me toward my own hospital room. Feifei has no one to look after her, so I'm just checking in. You need to get back to bed and rest. I hadn't gone far when Quan Yechen said he dropped his phone and went back to get it. Crying came from Shui Feifei's hospital room. Sister Su will surely hate me from now on, Yechen, because I loved you. I've lost everything. Quan Yechen coaxed. You still have your husband here. Alright. I don't want Su Jin to notice anything. Keep your voice down. I'm going over there first. My ghostly pale face was reflected in the hospital's glass door too on the day I was discharged. I printed the divorce papers and began packing up my belongings from the villa. I was just confirming my itinerary and flight tickets with the airline when Quan Yechen came home. Going somewhere? He asked, sounding a bit suspicious. Yeah, just need to get away for a bit. I replied flatly. I've been a bit busy lately, honey, so I probably can't go with you. Here, take this card, use it for whatever you need. He pulled me into an embrace and handed me a black card. I pushed him away. He continued, honey, Feifei has no one in Haicheng, and she's pregnant. Can she stay with us for a while? She's due in just over 10 days, and, after all, you two have a connection, you wouldn't say no, right, honey? My hands trembled slightly as a wave of sickening disgust churned in my heart, yet he still feigned ignorance, saying, oh, suit yourself, whatever, I'm flying out in 3 days anyway. He was delighted, humming a tune as he took off his tie and headed for a shower. While showering, he seemed to be on a call with someone, taking a long time before he came out. Shui Feifei moved in that very afternoon. To make things easier for the new mother, Quan Yechen decided to give her the master bedroom on the first floor, the one I loved most. He came upstairs to thank me, trying to hug me. Darling, I knew you'd be the most understanding. I love you so much. I sneered inwardly. Yeah, right, but what I said was, you're covered in dust from moving things, better not come near me. I asked him to help me get the big box down from the top of the cabinet. Just as he got hold of the box, Shui Feifei's scream echoed from downstairs. Quan Yechen dropped the box and hurried downstairs. The box landed on my shoulder before crashing onto my toe, splitting the skin of my big toe wide open. A deep crimson stain began to spread across the carpet. Hiss! I bit down hard on my lip, beads of sweat breaking out on my forehead. As I hobbled downstairs to find medicine, Quan Yechen was putting a bandage on Shui Feifei's cut. As he applied the bandage, he gently reminded me, let me handle the fruit cutting from now on. Look, it's lucky you only nicked your nail. If you'd cut into the flesh, you'd be bleeding. The man who once cherished me above all else, now for the sake of another woman, didn't even notice me getting hurt right before his eyes. A tear traced a silent path down my cheek. In the dead of night, the pain from the wound jolted me awake. I reached out to the side of the bed, only to find Quan Yechen was not there. The quiet night amplified every sound. Honey, it's not good for the baby to see this. Who told you to be so naughty all afternoon? The words hit me like a sledgehammer, shattering my heart. I thought my heart had already died these past few days, but when I truly confirmed this scene for a moment, my mind went completely blank, and my entire body turned ice cold. Immediately after, my whole body began to tremble uncontrollably, like a leaf in the wind, and tears welled up in my eyes. I covered my mouth to stifle the sobs, my breath hitching and catching in my throat. Darling, what if Sister Su finds out? I'm so scared every time. Then you need to be more careful. I've told you I don't want my wife to find out about us. Humph, you're so mean. What do you take me for? Everything but the title, sweetheart. I'd give you anything, even my life. I couldn't bear to listen any longer. My heart felt as if it were being torn apart, covering my ears. I stumbled and rushed back to the bedroom. It wasn't until I had closed the door and buried myself under the covers that I finally broke down and sobbed. 3. When Quan Yechen Left for work, I lit the stove in the courtyard. I began tossing everything from the big box into the fire, the photo albums, diaries, love letters, and gifts, every single memento from our courtship and marriage. Shwefeifei waddled over, a hand on her back. Sister Sue, don't do anything rash, Yechen still loves you. I let out a cold laugh. How long has this been going on between you two? She stroked her round belly. You're so naive, Sister Sue. Do you really need to ask? For 8 months. These past 8 months, I've endured the agony of IVF, the repeated pain of frequent egg retrievals just to get pregnant, a 35-centimeter steel needle piercing into me to extract eggs, twice a month. Seeing me lost in these painful memories, she still had the nerve to blabber. Even when I'm like this, he's always wanting it. It must be that you can't satisfy him, Sister Sue. The firelight illuminated Shwefeifei's smug face. 20,000 drones for your birthday. Wow, what a spectacle. But you didn't know, did you? Yechen came to see me that night. It was wild. I wonder what was happening on your end. A sudden wave of nausea hit me, and I doubled over, retching. On my birthday, tears of happiness welled in my eyes as Quan Yechen held me in his arms, watching the sky ablaze with drones, shining for me alone. That day, I swore that even if my health was failing, I would bear him a child. But the truth behind him abandoning me in the middle of the night, claiming a company emergency, was that he went to a hotel to have a passionate affair with Shwefeifei. I retched until I tasted bile, while Shwefeifei returned to her room, laughing heartily, humming a tune. She decorated her baby's crib with a blissful look on her face. Quan Yechen came home in the evening and brought me a gift. It was a bracelet, studded with diamonds. I tossed it aside without a second thought and handed him the divorce papers. He was stunned, and then his eyes welled up. Darling, I know you're heartbroken about losing the baby. I don't blame you at all. And I will absolutely not divorce you. Please don't punish yourself like this. I was at a loss for words. Whatever, sign it or don't. I'm leaving it here. I've already decided to leave him. A piece of paper can't dictate my life. Just then, his phone kept buzzing with incoming messages. He glanced at it, his eyes lighting up, his Adam's apple bobbing. Honey, don't get upset. We'll have other chances to have a baby. Just get some sleep. You'll feel better. He waited restlessly for me to fall asleep, then slipped out of the room without a sound. Little did he know, the moment he left, Shwefeifei sent me a message. It was a photo of her in lingerie, fingers lightly tracing a diamond-encrusted necklace at her chest. Look, the custom necklace Yechen gave me. I heard what you got was just a freebie. She started a live stream, visible only to me. Let's make a bet. Who will Yechen spend the night with tonight? I meant to close it, but I clicked on it anyway. On the screen, Quan Yechen entered her room. Feifei, stop fooling around. Shwefeifei twirled a strand of her hair. But I can't help it, both the baby and I miss you so much. As she spoke, she rose onto her tiptoes. Quan Yechen's eyes sparkled. I just can't handle you, he said, before closing in on her. The view was blocked by Quan Yechen's scattered clothes, leaving only a cacophony of intertwined sounds. I watched the live stream with detached calm. In the darkness, nothing remained but the hatred choking my chest. Shwefeifei, you're truly unhinged. For after a sleepless night, I got up early to find Quan Yechen, who never cooks, unexpectedly bustling about in the kitchen. Surprised to see me up so early, he said, honey, I made breakfast. Would you like some? I glanced at the pickled cucumber and abalone porridge in his hands. It was clearly a meal meant for an expectant mother. Seeing me shake my head, he quickly took it to Shwefeifei's room. Honey, Feifei shouldn't be moving around much in her condition. I'll just drop this off and be right out. Shwefeifei's light, tinkling laugh drifted from her room. How did you know the baby was craving something sour? Her voice was deliberately loud, as if afraid I wouldn't hear, but I didn't care anymore. Quan Yechen seemed to sense something was off with me. Right before leaving for work, he came to my room. Honey, when you're on your trip, remember to bring your husband back a souvenir. Seeing that I didn't answer and was just staring out the window, he asked me what I was thinking about. I said, I suddenly remembered our wedding night. Quan Yechen, do you remember what you said to me that day? Oh, of course I remember. I said Quan Yechen, would only love Su Jin in this lifetime. If I ever break this vow. I looked up at him. He seemed a bit nervous. I suddenly laughed. How could fate possibly make a childish curse like "May my line perish" come true? I finally finished packing my bags. The moment Quan Yechen stepped out, I immediately grabbed my documents, dragged my suitcase, and walked out the door. Shwefeifei chose that exact moment to block my path on the steps, her belly protruding. Sister Sue, with you leaving like this, you're not planning on coming back, are you? Maybe it's for the best. If it weren't for the Sue family's meddling back then, I would have remained their cherished daughter, living a perfectly good life. Now that you're gone, everything Is just going back to the way it was, isn't that right, Sister Sue? I glared at her, finding her face utterly repulsive. A good dog doesn't block the path. Don't make me slap you when I'm already in the worst mood, Sister Sue. It's a good thing those two old bastards got run over by a car. With you out of the picture, there's finally no one left to stand between me and Yetchin. I can take insults aimed at me, but when you drag my parents into it, I saw red. A surge of rage overwhelmed me. And before I knew it, my hand shot out and slapped her across the face. A faint, almost imperceptible smile touched Xue Feifei's lips as she tilted her head back and fell down the steps. I knew she was pregnant, so I didn't hit her that hard. I reached out in a panic to grab her, but she shook off my hand. Quan Yetchin, for some reason, had rushed back at that very moment. He hurried forward to catch her, but he was a step too late. Xue Feifei collapsed into his arms and began to sob. Yetchin, while you were out, Sister Sue tried to throw me out. She called me a shameless country bumpkin and told me to get lost and know my place. Yetchin, you clearly said Sister Sue agreed to let me stay. I was only going to be here for a little over 10 days. Am I really so worthless that I don't deserve your kindness? I pressed my lips tightly together, choking on my fury at her shamelessness. Just then, she screamed again. Blood, I'm bleeding. Yetchin, she pushed me. The baby's coming. If anything happens to my child, I won't live either. Sure enough, crimson blood mixed with amniotic fluid was flowing from beneath her. Quan Yetchin's face turned deathly pale. He looked up at me with a gaze that could kill. He dialed the number for an ambulance. I protested. Yetchin, that's not what really happened. Smack asterisk. Before the words had even left my mouth, a stinging slap landed on my face. Quan Yetchin struck with brutal force. I staggered, the small of my back slamming into the sharp corner of a flower bed beside the steps. A sharp, searing pain shot through me. I saw you hit Feifei with my own eyes. Su Jin, I never imagined you could be so vicious to a pregnant woman in private. I'm so disappointed in you. This slap is for Feifei. Xue Feifei stood behind her, a smug smile spreading across her face. The ambulance arrived with its siren wailing. Quan Yetchin scooped Xue Feifei into his arms and carried her straight onto the vehicle without a backward glance. He never once looked back at me. Standing there with my eyes brimming red, Quan Yetchin never laid a hand on any woman, let alone laid a finger on me. There was even a time when a cabinet door accidentally bumped me, and he held me in his arms, soothing me for what felt like ages. After my parents died in the car accident, seeing my heart break, he stayed by my side night after night, never leaving me to suffer alone. Su Jin is the most precious part of my heart. The slightest hurt or sorrow she feels, I feel it too. Those words still ring in my ears today. For the sake of another woman, he has become a completely different person. I dragged my suitcase and resolutely opened the taxi door. My back was injured, and the housekeeper, wiping away tears, helped me load the suitcase into the trunk. Madam, I don't know if I should say this, but that Xue Feifei, when I was tidying her room this morning, I discovered she had started her period. Her behavior is not your fault, madam. Please don't take it to heart. When the master returns, I'll remind him not to hold a grudge against you. I stepped into the car and closed the door. That won't be necessary. Don't breathe a word of this to the master. Explanations are for those who care, and I, for one, am completely past caring. The car window slid up, and we sped off towards the airport. 5 At the hospital, Xue Feifei gave birth to a healthy baby boy. Quan Yetchin was overjoyed, and the celebratory sound of firecrackers echoed throughout Haicheng. Seizing the opportunity, Xue Feifei forced the issue, wielding the divorce papers I had already signed. She pressured Quan Yetchin into signing them as well. Sister Sue, I have some happy news for you. Yetchin really has cast you aside. She still frequently sends me provocative messages. After giving birth, Yetchin didn't mind at all. He personally helped clean me down there. Sister Sue, you won't get to enjoy this kind of service. Today he complimented me, saying my figure is even more tempting after having the baby. I'm so worried he won't be able to control himself, and I haven't even finished my postpartum confinement yet. I don't really care. I just treat it as a joke. In the years since marrying Quan Yetchin, because we were trying to conceive and undergoing IVF, I could barely manage a normal work or personal life. Now that I'm free, I plan to travel the world. The diverse landscapes and cultures I encountered were a healing balm for my soul. Suddenly, all those people and matters that once consumed me seemed as insignificant as dust. It's not worth my time to dwell on or respond to. On the night she signed the divorce papers, Xue Feifei returned to the Quan family villa with the baby in her arms, carrying herself as if she were the new lady of the house. Quan Yetchin was suddenly, and for no apparent reason, overcome by a profound sense of gloom. He suddenly realized that all my belongings in the house were gone. It was as if there was no trace I had ever been there. Come to think of it, I had been traveling for half a month and hadn't returned to Haicheng a bit. Panicked, he went to search for that large box on top of the cabinet, but that big box was completely empty. It's as if my very existence was just a dream. He calls me, but his phone is always switched off. After giving her the cold shoulder for so many days, I hope she hasn't really gotten angry and left, but she was clearly in the wrong for hitting Feifei. Divorce is just a way to teach her a lesson. In the end, she's still mine, and we won't be apart, he was muttering to himself, searching for me upstairs and downstairs. Shui Feifei couldn't stand it anymore. Honey, aren't you going to come and soothe your son? A sudden wave of irritation washed over him as he recalled the look in my eyes the day I demanded a divorce. He asked, did you say something to Su Jin? Shui Feifei batted her large, innocent eyes. I swear on my conscience, I've been listening to you, darling. I haven't breathed a word of it to her. True to her restless nature, she pressured Quan Yechen to hold the wedding as soon as their child turned 1 month old. Yi Chen, do you really want the whole of Haicheng to think of our son as a bastard? Quan Yechen thought, if Su Jin truly cared for me, she would have come to find me when she learned I was marrying someone else. However, during that period, I began documenting everything I saw and heard on my travels. I edited the work and posted it online. The results were surprisingly good, and my follower count shot up. I even landed quite a few travel photography gigs. Busy making friends and working as a travel blogger for a while, I completely forgot all those awful memories from Haicheng. It wasn't until I picked up that old, dusty phone that I saw the new message Shui Weiwei had sent me. Sister Su, Night Chen and I are getting married. Still want to watch the live stream of our wedding night. 6. She's so disgusting. I have no idea what Quan Yechen sees in her. She was just an imposter who stole someone else's place from the start due to a hospital mix-up with the identification bracelets. She lucked into living as the Su family's pampered daughter for 10 years. Her spoiled, willful, selfish, and domineering ways gave mom and dad nothing but trouble. After much difficulty, mom and dad finally found me in the countryside and brought me home. Originally, mom and dad had planned to let her stay with the Su family so we could be like sisters at such a young age. She actually had the nerve to poison my water glass. This infuriated my parents so much that they sent her back to her biological family. They even signed an agreement forbidding her from ever returning to Haicheng. Yet, the moment my parents died, she showed up right by Quan Yechen's side. What a scheming, malicious, two-faced person. But I really do need to go back to Haicheng for something, to attend the self-media conference as a representative for overseas travel bloggers. Just as I walked into the building, a male blogger who looked familiar from online suddenly said hello to me. I was stunned for a moment and exclaimed, wow, I can't believe it's you. I'm actually meeting you in the flesh. Gu Zhongli, a top creator on Platform D with 90 million followers, is renowned across the internet and even internationally for his breathtaking global adventure videos. Any video he posts can instantly spark a global frenzy, with fans eagerly awaiting the next one. To be honest, some of my early videos were heavily influenced by his work. I never expected to run into him here today. He smiled faintly. Su Jin, I'm also fortunate to have met the real you. With that, we both couldn't help but laugh. We were just about to enter the venue. As luck would have it, I discovered the conference and Quan Yechen and Shui Feifei's wedding were in the same building. Quan Yechen appeared out of nowhere and suddenly blocked my path. Su Jin, we need to talk. He was dressed in a custom-tailored wedding suit, but there was no joy on his face, only a faint trace of melancholy. We're already divorced, there's nothing left to discuss. Anyway, I looked him up and down with my eyes. A man about to get married. Aren't you worried your bride will get jealous? I have a meeting to attend. If there's nothing else, you go your way, and I'll go mine. With that, I walked toward the conference hall without looking back. Quan Yechen called out behind me, his voice tinged with reluctance. Su Jin, before my wedding with Feifei takes place, I hope there's still a chance for us to reconcile. How absurd. Does he think I'm someone he can just summon and dismiss at will? My mind was flooded with memories of that cold, rainy night when I lost the baby, and all the history between him and Shui Weiwei. Standing in the packed auditorium, I clenched my fists, forcing myself to suppress the urge to hit him right then and there. Noticing my troubled expression, Gu Zhongli stopped and said gently, Miss Su, if you need any help, you can call on me. A wave of warmth washed over me, and I thanked him politely. Quan Yechen looked at Gu Zhongli beside me, took out a cigarette, and stopped at the entrance of the venue with clear annoyance. I caught a glimpse of his figure disappearing out the door and decided to focus on the upcoming meeting. I had just taken my seat when I felt someone grab my hair and yank me up from behind. Shui Weiwei, still in her bridal makeup, viciously dragged me out of the venue. Su Jin, you have no shame. Kwon Yechin is done with you. Did you come back just to disgust us on purpose? I should have had you killed in that accident back then. She was yanking my hair, and only after Gu Zhongli, in a panic, slapped her across the face did she finally let go. Oh, so you've hired a pretty boy too, Su Jin, you really get around. No, running you over would be too much of a waste. I should have your scandalous photos with your boy toy plastered all over the internet, ruining your reputation for good. Ha 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 ha. She was still spewing venomous, filthy words from her mouth, but my mind was stuck on the sentence she had uttered just before. I should have had you run over along with her. I should have had you run over and killed along with them. With a boom, I felt like my head was about to explode. My days in the countryside were very hard. The happiest time was the few years I spent back with my birth parents. They gave me the greatest love I have ever known in my life. To make up for the past decade they felt they owed me, they even recreated every single one of my birthdays from ages 1 to 10. Tragically, when I turned 20, they were in a car accident on their way back to school to visit me at the crash site. They found a birthday cake, stained with blood. I always thought it was just an accident, but from Xue Feifei's words, this was definitely no simple mishap. I rushed forward and grabbed her by the collar. Xue Feifei, you killed mom and dad, didn't you? Why would you do that? Why? Xue Feifei let out a shrill laugh, then adopted an innocent tone. Sister Su, you need proof for such accusations. What nonsense are you spouting? Kwon Yechin arrived on the scene at that moment. He frowned, pulling Xue Feifei aside. Su Jin, you're making a scene, Xue Feifei said plaintively. I kindly invited Sister Su to our wedding, but she's ready to throw hands again at the drop of a hat. Yi Chen, I told you to forget about her long ago. She's nothing like the quiet, delicate woman you imagined. She blinked her eyes while nestled in Kwon Yechin's arms. Gu Zhongli let out an exasperated laugh. Miss Su, the meeting has started. Talking to someone like her is beneath you. With that, he guided my dazed and emotionally turbulent self into the venue. Tears slipped uncontrollably from my eyes. I will get to the bottom of the evidence, but for now, I won't make things easy for you either. I pulled out that old phone from my bag, the one I rarely ever turned on. I sent all the videos, messages, and photos of Xue Feifei insulting me over this period directly to Kwon Yechin. 7. It was supposed to be the top trending spot for the self-media conference, but it got knocked off by another piece of news. Big scoop, Kwon Yechin slaps bride in anger. The dirty secrets of the elite, from celebration to mourning. The contents of Cho and Yechin's phone. Haichung's most ambitious mistress fails to secure her position. I clicked on a video that was going viral in the news. In the video, Xue Feifei held her bouquet, waiting for the groom to say, I do. But then, Kwon Yechin's phone rang, with messages popping up one after another. He pulled out his phone, glanced at it, and his brow furrowed. His face darkened with fury. When he looked up again, he struck Xue Feifei across the face with lightning speed. Right in front of the photographers and media, a sharp smack rang out, and Xue Feifei's left cheek immediately flushed red. It all happened so fast that everyone on the scene froze in stunned silence. Fortunately, the host kept their cool and quickly had someone escort Kwon Yechin off the stage. The camera cut to the audience, but it still captured Kwon Yechin's icy warning. I told you not to spout nonsense about Su Jin. The news was rapidly gaining traction online. As the instigator, I was preparing to make a quick exit from the venue. As soon as we stepped out of the building, Kwon Yechin grabbed my arm. Su Jin, I'm sorry, I'm truly sorry. I had no idea Xue Feifei sent you so many vile messages. I didn't know she was constantly provoking you. It's all my fault. Please come back. Let's talk this through properly. I was the one who misunderstood you. The thought of how malicious those words were, and how I had silently endured them all, made Kwon Yechin's heart ache so fiercely it felt ready to burst. After all, I was a part of his life for over a third of it. Su Jin, I do love you. I just couldn't resist Feifei's advances in a moment of weakness. I made a mistake that men often make. It felt like I was under a spell. I shouldn't have treated you that way. I was wrong. Su Jin, come back. Let's talk this through properly and put all the unpleasantness behind us. Okay. He looked at me with deep affection, but I was trying to shake off his grip as if peeling away a stubborn adhesive plaster. But the disparity in strength between a man and a woman was just too great. There's nothing to discuss. Whatever message she sent doesn't change the fact that I don't love you anymore. Seeing me trapped like a fawn in a snare, Gu Zhongli happened to appear. He crossed his arms and said, if you don't let go now, I'll call the media over. Kwon Yechin shot a glance at Gu Zhongli. You again? Who the hell do you think you are? Breaking free from Kwon Yechin, I grabbed Gu Zhongli's arm. He's my current boyfriend. Gu Zhongli seemed to blush slightly. Kwon Yechin's gaze turned as cold as ice. I didn't have time to think. Grabbing his hand, I made a run for it before the swarm of reporters could descend on us. Finally shaking off Kwon Yechin, I gasped for breath. Fanning myself with my hand, Mr. Gu, I'm so sorry. I've dragged you into my mess and used you as a shield. Gu Zhongli looked down at me with a slight smile. It's fine, you've seen my channel. I've been through situations 10,000 times messier than yours. You mean that episode in the primitive tribe, with 8 women fighting over one husband? We both burst into laughter again ever since the divorce. I feel like I've been smiling more and more. 8. After the wedding incident, Kwon Yechin returned home due to Xue Feifei's duplicitous behavior, saying one thing to your face and doing another behind your back. Kwon Yechin began investigating my recent activities. An assistant sent over surveillance footage from the villa's entrance, which completely broke his composure. That won't be necessary. Don't breathe a single word of this to Sir. In the footage, I was seen dragging my suitcase alone, leaving with unwavering resolve. She wouldn't even give him an explanation. He summoned the butler to get to the bottom of the matter. The butler said, Miss Su burned all the mementos of your time together in the courtyard. She forbade me from telling you any of this. He was stunned. I entered my room, and it felt so empty. All of my belongings were gone, only the bedding remained, untouched and unchanged. He lay on my bed and noticed the faint, yellowish stain on the pillow. These are clearly tear stains. I wonder how long I cried secretly in the night. He stroked the pillow, and his heart suddenly clenched. He suddenly began to slap his own face and tear at his hair in the room. He punched the dressing mirror by the bed. In the shattered glass, the man's eyes were bloodshot, oblivious to the blood streaming down the back of his hand. He kept muttering to himself, I'm a piece of trash, Su Jin. I'm really a piece of trash. Xue Feifei heard Kwon Yechin raging in the room and went up to see what was wrong. Hearing her voice only fueled his rage further. Kwon Yechin grabbed everything within reach on the nightstand and hurled it all. Xue Feifei grew angry. Darling, I admit I was wrong, but everything I did was out of love for you. Even if you're furious, for the sake of our child, can you find it in your heart to forgive me? She brought the child over, her eyes welling up with tears. The little one, frightened, burst into loud, wailing sobs. Kwon Yechin began to calm down a little. Looking at my child's adorable cheeks, I remembered all the hardship I endured for the IVF treatments. My heart ached with another pang of pain thinking of that man named Gu beside me. A sudden unease came over him in the middle of the night. He ran to my hotel room door and started pounding on it. Su Jin, please, open the door. I was wrong, terribly wrong. I shouldn't have hit you because of Xue Feifei. I shouldn't have forgotten my vow to love you for her sake. Please, give me another chance. I told him to leave, but he refused. We were at a stalemate for over half an hour. I had no choice but to call the police. It was only after they arrived that he was persuaded to leave. To avoid his further pestering, I bought a plane ticket and left the country overnight. 9. While abroad, I blocked all news from Haicheng. I focused on building my career. My personal channel has seen exponential growth in subscribers in just half a year. Many famous tourist spots are eager to collaborate, just to have me appear in a 30-second video. I can earn a handsome fee for it, of course. Living abroad for a long time, it's only natural to miss home. In the beginning, I would call Gu Zhongli. As fellow Chinese people abroad, sharing a meal of dumplings can soothe our homesickness. Over time, we became close friends who shared everything, and eventually, business partners as well. He often featured me in his videos. The comment section was full of praise, saying they couldn't get enough of the handsome guy and beautiful girl. As a blogger, if I appear on camera, it's hard to avoid revealing my location. Lately, I've had this constant feeling that someone is following me. Sure enough, after a few times, I noticed a Rolls-Royce Phantom always lurking around our vicinity. One day, I walked right up and knocked on the car window. The window rolled down, and it was Kwon Yechin. He had lost a lot of weight and was completely unshaven. I'm sorry you still found me, he said in a hoarse voice. He asked me very cautiously, could you sit with me for a while? I glanced at the time on my phone. Alright, is 3 minutes enough? It was in the cafe, from Kwon Yechin's own mouth, that I finally learned he had already driven Xue Feifei away, along with the child she had born. I covered my mouth in shock. Did he know everything? Seeing my expression, he dejectedly lowered his eyelids. His eyelashes cast shadows on his face. Su Jin, it turns out I'm the reason we can't have a child. I'm so sorry you've suffered so much for me. Indeed, after Su Jin and Kwon Yechin had been married for a year, she still hadn't gotten pregnant. I went for a checkup in secret and found out that aside from being a bit thin, my uterine environment was perfectly healthy and normal. The problem lies with Kwon Yechin. His semen causes allergic reactions in women. Any pregnancy is prone to end in a chemical miscarriage. To have a child of our own, I'd been trying hard with IVF treatments for the past few years. The news reports all assumed it was due to my poor health, but that wasn't the case at all. As for that child, Shuefei, it was discovered during a blood transfusion for an illness that the child's blood type did not match Quan Yechen's. By that point, he had already grown suspicious of Shuefei, so he went the extra mile and got a paternity test done. The moment he received the results, his world came crashing down. Around that same time, Shuefei nearly used their child to pressure him into getting a marriage license with her again. In a fit of rage, he issued a ban, forbidding Shuefei and that bastard child from setting foot in Haicheng. The 3 minutes passed quickly. As I listened to his account, 100 different unpleasant feelings churned inside me. His eyes welled up with tears. Su Jin, I was so terribly wrong. I know nothing I say can make you forgive me. He clutched his head in agony, sobbing. Having calmed down a little, he continued, by the way, back then, I wasn't trying to make you get an abortion. It was the doctor who said your baby couldn't be saved. I thought it was better to end the suffering quickly, so I told the doctor to prepare you for the procedure right away. My tears fell into the coffee cup, and my heart ached with a deep, searing pain. Quan Yechen was about to say something more to me when Gu Zhongli suddenly walked in. Ajin, are you ready? It's time to go. I wiped away my tears and said to Quan Yechen with a smile, thank you for telling me all this. I suddenly feel a weight lifted off my shoulders. Let bygones be bygones, there's no need to dwell on it anymore. I have to go for my prenatal checkup. It's getting late, and I'm afraid the doctor will be off duty. I gently stroked my belly. A month ago, Zhongli Gu and I had a destination wedding, with just a few close friends offering blessings together at a mountain peak. It was a simple affair. The wedding travel photos should be released and made public in a few days. 2 weeks ago, I realized my period had stopped. The doctor said the baby is estimated to be just over a month along. I smiled, stood up, and said goodbye to Quan Yechen. The hope in his expression shattered into fragments of desolation, but he quickly composed himself, extended his hand for a handshake, and said, Su Jin, I wish you happiness. 10. My life has indeed grown increasingly bright and vibrant. There's still a knot in my heart that I haven't been able to untie. That was what Shuefei said. I should have had you killed in the crash too. Lately, I've mobilized every resource at my disposal to investigate that car accident from years ago, but because so much time has passed, and with Shuefei's words being nothing more than hearsay, it might have been a misinterpretation. For a long time, there was little progress on the matter. In the blink of an eye, the baby in my belly was already 6 or 7 months along. I also set the matter aside for the time being. On this day, my body felt heavy, and there was a slight tightness in my chest. I told Gu Zhongli that I wanted to go downstairs for a walk, as pregnant women should stay active. He agreed. The neighborhood I live in is relatively safe. Usually, I don't leave the residential complex. However, the fruits and vegetables at the street stalls across from the complex are very fresh. The air was filled with the sweet scent of fruit, and I thought about buying some to take home. Just as I was picking out some fruit, the crowd let out a panicked cry. A car came barreling toward the crowd like a madman. It plowed through and overturned several market stalls. The fruit was scattered all over the ground, and I stood there frozen. For a moment, I thought I was going to die, but in the nick of time, a Rolls-Royce Phantom swerved in from the side. It squarely blocked the car that was speeding toward me. Bang! The two cars collided with a deafening crash, and in an instant, flames shot into the sky. As I snapped back to reality, I saw clearly. The person inside the Rolls-Royce Phantom was Quan Yechen. I rushed forward like a madman, but the car door was already mangled. Quan Yechen was slumped in the car, his head covered in blood, unconscious and trapped. His life hung in the balance. My hands trembling, I fumbled to dial the emergency number. Suddenly, Shuefei came charging from nowhere. Her face was twisted with rage, her eyes wild, as she lunged at me with a knife. You bitch, Yechen left me because of you. If I can't have him, neither will you. The first blade whistled past my face. The second was intercepted by a tall figure stepping between us. Gu Zhongli promptly delivered a sharp chop to Shuefei's neck, knocking her out cold. He then swiftly kicked the weapon away with his foot. Sirens blared as Shuefei was taken into custody. Quan Yechen was rushed to the hospital. During the on-site rescue, it was also discovered that a child, just over a year old, was in the passenger seat of Shuefei's car. Tragically, the impact was too severe, and the child could not be saved, perishing at the scene. I was so frightened that I went into premature labor. Thankfully, there was no impact. The baby is under 24-hour observation in the incubator, and everything is stable for now. 11. We're in the same hospital. Once I felt a bit better, I went to the inpatient ward to see Quan Yechen. The impact he suffered was so severe that he was left in a vegetative state. He was covered in tubes, sustained by a feeding tube. After Shui Feifei's arrest, one thing led to another. The interrogation confirmed that the car accident that killed my biological parents 4 years ago, it was entirely her doing. Her motive was an unwillingness to return to life in the countryside, and she redirected all that resentment onto my parents and me. She seized an opportunity to secretly block the exhaust pipe of my parents' car. It caused a highway accident. She got pregnant unexpectedly while still messing around in society. She saw in the news that I had married Quan Yechen and was living the life of a wealthy socialite, became green with envy, and used every means to get close to Quan Yechen. Quan Yechen fell under her spell. Driven nearly to madness, the child was, of course, conveniently claimed to be his, and so, step by step, she destroyed my marriage. She ruined herself in the process and brought misery upon Quan Yechen. She was sentenced to death. I asked the police why Quan Yechen was at the scene on the day of the incident. The police told me that a large number of conversations were found on Quan Yechen's communication devices, in which Shui Feifei was verbally abusing and threatening him. Mr. Quan was likely patrolling the area around your life out of a desire to protect you. I was stunned. His condition was very poor, and the doctors advised against prolonging such a low quality of life. In the end, we took him to Switzerland. His will had been written long ago. He left all of his assets to me, his ex-wife. I chose to donate his wealth to support the livelihood, healthcare, and education of girls in impoverished regions. I hope such a tragedy never happens again. Gu Zhongli and I have been discharged from the hospital with our baby. He is lively and healthy. All that has passed is like a cloud on the horizon, gone with the wind. The end. That's all for the first story. Don't go away. The next one is even more exciting. My boyfriend will cover the 1 million surgery fee for my father's treatment. I mindlessly sent a super chat to a female streamer. He sneered, "I've got plenty of money, but I'd rather give it to a dog than lend it to you." That night, my father died because we couldn't afford the surgery. I lost my last remaining family. I climbed to the top of a skyscraper and jumped, yet, upon hearing the news of my death, he went mad. In the year my boyfriend Pei Su was at his poorest, I abandoned him and threw myself into the arms of the financial tycoon Jiang Qi, becoming his kept woman for 3 years later. After Pei Su became a rising star in the business world and returned to the country, he rescued me from a humiliating situation at a banquet. With a cold expression, he said to everyone, "Lin Wan is the person I love most. Anyone who dares to touch her will answer to me." Jiang Qi gave a cynical smile. That's right. I got bored and found myself a trash can again. I lowered my gaze, quietly listening to his insults. I even thought of pushing Pei Su away, but he took my hand and led me off instead. Once outside, I got into Pei Su's Maybach. The cold wind snapped me back to my senses. He said, "Is this the kind of life you've been living since you left me 3 years ago?" I remained silent. He gave a bitter smile, stopped the car, and with red-rimmed eyes, pinned me against the passenger seat. "Do you regret it, Lin Wan? Say you regret it, and we'll get back together." My voice was hoarse as I started to refuse. He leaned in closer. "I know your answer." The next day, he took me home. I thought Pei Su truly loved me, but later, I realized it was all just part of his plan to get back at me too. Back together for 3 years. Whenever I tried to get close to him, he would always ask me with a smile, "Is this how you act around Jiang Qi?" It felt like a bucket of ice water had been dumped over my heart. The smile froze on my lips. At first, I would apologize through tears. He just gave a cold smile, watching me, savoring my guilt and anguish. Later, he wouldn't even look my way. "Your hypocrisy makes me sick." On the day of our 3rd anniversary since getting back together, I had a surprise all prepared at home. The moment he opened the door, I presented the 3rd anniversary cake I had made with my own hands. At the doorway, the woman in Pei Su's arms, him, and I, the 3 of us just stared at each other in stunned silence. The difference was, both my smile and that woman's frozen place. "This girl reminds me so much of my younger self." Only Pei Su was laughing heartily. "Lin Wan, you didn't get me a 3-year anniversary gift, did you?" Seeing how pale my face had turned, he smiled and kissed the woman in his arms again. "Wan, say hello to your sister-in-law." The girl's face darkened with displeasure. She called him a jerk, pushed him away, and left. Pei Su chased after her. I sat at the dining table at home and waited for him all evening. He didn't come back until the 3rd day. I asked him cautiously, "Have you eaten? You must be hungry. Let me make you something," pretending as if nothing had happened the day before. Pei Su smiled and tossed his suit jacket onto the sofa. He casually lit a cigarette. I frowned. I've never liked it when he smokes. He never used to, but there was nothing I could do about it. He won't listen to me. Perhaps his new flame, Wan, can talk some sense into him. At that thought, a sharp pang shot through my heart. Pei Su walked to the dining table and picked up the cake I had made with my own hands, now melted. His eyes were deep and inscrutable. revealing neither joy nor anger. "Eat this, and I'll forgive you." As if seeing a ray of hope, I immediately picked up my fork and knife, but the next moment, my face was smothered with cake. My nose, eyes, and mouth were all filled with sickeningly sweet cream. Pei-su pressed the cake hard against my face just as I was about to choke to death on the cake. "He let go," he said coldly. "Lin Wan, you really can endure a lot. You're more loyal than a dog when it comes to money." Actually, he was wrong. The reason I can endure it is because I still love him, but after 3 years, my love seems to be almost exhausted. 3. I sent Pei-su a breakup message, then I quietly moved out of that villa. I didn't take anything with me except for a few of my own clothes. Maybe Dad was right. He tried to talk to me after I got married. Wan, it was my fault back then. If it weren't for me, you wouldn't have had to break up with him. Is he good to you? You left him for money back then. How could he not resent you? Wan, you need to think this through carefully. A surge of pure joy washed away all my reason. I tried to comfort him, saying that Pei-su worked so hard to earn money all for my sake. In truth, I was only half right. He worked so hard to succeed and make money, and it was all for me, but not out of love. It was out of hatred. He didn't marry me to make me happy, but to cause me pain and humiliation. Yet even after realizing all this, I still deceived myself, thinking that if I was just a little kinder, a little better, he might be moved and love me again. But I was wrong. Now I finally see the light. I made it back home, but before 10 days had passed, my father suddenly collapsed, crying. I rushed him to the hospital. After an examination, the doctor told me his condition was critical and he needed emergency surgery. The cost of the surgery was terrifyingly high. How could I possibly afford that? Pei-su came to mind. I called him. The call was hung up. I called again, time and again. Just as I was losing all hope, the call finally went through. Pei-su, I nearly broke down in tears. I was just about to tell him my father needed surgery and that I had to borrow money. On the other end, deafening music blared through the phone. "Boss Pei is in a private booth at the bar. He's too busy to take your call." I recognized the voice. It was his old friend, Linny. I didn't want to go, but my father's illness couldn't wait another day, for the rain soaked me to the bone, and I was shivering from the cold. When I reached the door of the private room, I saw the people inside, about a dozen of them, all my university classmates. Among them was Pei-su's admirer, my good friend Jiang Zhao. She was leaning against Pei-su. Her heavily made-up face wore a garish smile. I was just hesitating about whether to go in. Someone called out my name. "Hey, isn't that Lin, the campus belle, here to see our man Pei?" I walked in anyway. For 3 years, only my family knew about my relationship with Pei-su. To everyone else, I was just the gold digger who foolishly dumped him back then. I ignored the mocking glances from others. I simply stared at him, unwavering. Pei-su looked at everyone, but deliberately avoided my gaze. "Oh, where's the sugar daddy of our campus belle Lin? Don't tell me you got dumped." Linny, Pei-su's best friend, spoke with a hint of sarcasm. "He never thought much of me from the start. They think I'm too aloof and standoffish. Not a good match for Pei-su." Now they're laying on the sarcasm even thicker. "What do you know? Lin Wan is a wealthy lady now, not like us working stiffs. By the way, what did you need to see brother Pei for?" I asked Pei-su with my neck stiff. "Can you lend me $1 million?" The words had barely left my mouth. The private room fell silent instantly. A mocking smile curled at the corner of Pei-su's lips. The others started chattering all at once. "So the campus belle Lin has become a big joke. Huh, regretting it now. If you hadn't dumped our brother Pei back then, wouldn't you be the apple of his eye right now? Haha, got dumped by your sugar daddy. So now you remember our brother Pei. Just go find yourself another sugar daddy. Easy." "What are you talking about? Back then, Lin Wan was the belle of K University. Now, she's not worth much. Sugar daddies aren't fools, you know." Pei-su listened quietly without saying a word. Finally, he suddenly said, "I can lend it, but you have to do something for me." My eyes instantly lit up. "What is it?" His smile was cruel, his tone was calm. "Go back 6 years and give yourself a slap." The others burst into laughter once they understood Pei-su's meaning. I knew it. There's no way our brother Pei would be that much of a sucker. 05 I looked at him. I raised my hand and slapped myself hard across the face. I asked him, voice choked with emotion, "Was that slap good enough for you?" He said nothing. His gaze was cold. I raised my hand again and slapped myself. The force was so great, it made my eardrums roar. He raised the glass of red wine and gave it a swirl with elegant movements. He had mastered that affluent demeanor to a T. "All right, I'll stop whenever you're satisfied, Mr. Pei." I lost count of how many times I slapped myself. All I felt was the swollen, burning heat on my face. A coppery, metallic taste filled my mouth. Pei-su finally showed a flicker of a reaction. He frowned. "Stop." My head was spinning. "Had enough, Mr. Pay, he leisurely took out his phone casually. He started scrolling through a live streaming app right in front of me. He began watching a female streamer. I stared at him, dumbfounded. I don't understand what he means. Then, he tapped his finger a few times. The female streamer in the live broadcast room screamed excitedly, "Thank you to parking to admire the Maple Grove at dusk for the 100 Huazi gifts. Thanks, boss, really appreciate it." My expression darkened. Anyone who watches live streams knows. Hell, even I know. And I don't watch. One of those is 3,100 of them. That's 300 grand. Pei-Su raised his eyes. His gaze was ice cold. Money. I have plenty, but I'd sooner throw it to a stray dog on the street than lend a single cent to you. A sudden chill ran through my entire body. The room erupted in a continuous roar of raucous laughter and jeers. Damn, that's the boss for you. Brother Pei's got style. Isn't he basically saying the campus belle Lin isn't even worth a dog? Haha, that's a bit harsh, but I'm here for it. Lin Wan, if you're really desperate, why not take a page from those women in the livestream and be more forward with Brother Pei? He might just soften up. My phone suddenly rang. It was my father's attending physician. Ignoring their mockery, I turned and rushed out. Have you raised the money? Without surgery soon, the patient's condition is deteriorating rapidly. I was so frantic, I burst into tears. I'll figure something out right away. But what other choice did I have besides begging Pei-Su for help? 6. When I returned to the private room, Pei-Su was still sitting there. All the other students had already left. My eyes welled up with tears, my knees buckled, and I knelt on the cold marble floor just as he had done years ago, begging me through tears not to leave. Pei-Su, I was wrong. There were reasons for what happened back then. Enough. He cut me off coldly. For money, you'd even throw away your self-respect. Lin Wan, do you love money that much? My body is cold, but my heart is even colder. I couldn't stop trembling. I know you hate me, but this money could save my father's life. Please, lend me $1 million. I'll do anything you want, even if you hate me and want me dead. I'll obey. Just say you'll lend it to me. Pei-Su lit a cigarette. For money, you'd even curse your own father. No wonder you abandoned me back then. I frantically pulled out my phone, wanting to show him my father's diagnosis report, but he suddenly answered a call. His tone softened. Wan Wan, I'm at the bar. Yeah, I miss you. I'll come find you right away. What? Someone's giving you a hard time. I'm on my way. Pei-Su's expression darkened. He stood up, ready to head out the door. I had been with him for 3 years. He drifted from one woman to another. I've never cared about someone this much before. A sharp pain shot through my heart. I grabbed onto the leg of his trousers. I looked up at him. Pei-Su, I'm begging you. Please, lend me $1 million. Please, save my father. He just coldly kicked me away. If you want money, you'd be better off finding another sugar daddy to cling to. Just like you did back then, it'd be much faster. Those words cut me to the quick. Only now, with things having come to this, do I truly feel regret. I shouldn't have naively gotten back together with him. I foolishly believed he still loved me. Yeah, right. How could you still love me after being dumped when our love was at its peak? I can understand why he hates me. It's just, Pei-Su, I don't think I love you anymore either. 7. For my father's sake, I called my former benefactor. $1 million. You certainly don't ask for small favors. What about Pei-Su, the one who rescued you from me? He's quite wealthy, isn't he? You'd be better off begging him than coming to me. My mouth fell open, but I couldn't utter a single word. There was only bitterness. He gave a faint smile. Finally, he gave me an address. I made up my mind. When he found out I wasn't a virgin, he flew into a rage and slammed my head against the wall. Even after I needed several stitches in my head, I still didn't leave him. But from that moment on, I was afraid of him. Jiangqi was never one to have a gentle temper. In his fits of rage, he once beat his assistant so badly that 2 ribs were broken, landing him in the hospital. In the few short years I stayed by his side, my own body became covered in bruises and scars. Yet, I dared not voice my anger. After my mother passed away, I wanted to leave, but Jiangqi had warned me that if I tried, he'd make sure I regretted it. I didn't believe it at the time and fled to another city. That very night, my father went missing, so I obediently came back. In the end, it was Pei-Su who rescued me from his clutches. I thought I had found my escape, only to realize I had merely fallen from one hell into another. Seeing my pale face, Jiangqi flashed a knowing, amused smile. I told you, once you're here, don't even think about leaving. For my father's surgery I'd do anything, but in the end, I couldn't hold back and rushed out. Jiangqi slapped me across the face, then kicked me. What a letdown. Get lost, and don't come looking for me again. Along with my relief, a sense of melancholy began to creep over me once more. What about the money? There's not A million. What should I do? My heart filled with anxiety. I wandered the night streets like a ghost. I didn't see the car that came speeding around the corner. When I was hit, I felt pain everywhere. My lower abdomen hurt the most. My mind went completely blank. Everything went black before my eyes. I don't know how much time had passed. I heard screams erupting around me, one after another, followed by the driver's shouts as he got out. Why is there blood? Are you okay? I stared at the blood gushing out from beneath me along with the cramping pain in my lower abdomen. A terrifying thought shot through my mind. Pregnant, is that my child with Pei Su? In a flash, I suddenly remembered not long ago, when Pei Su came home drunk. That was the only time Pei Su ever got close to me. The next day, I woke up, but Pei Su was nowhere to be found in the room. I thought it was all just a dream. I never imagined it was actually real, and because of my own carelessness, I lost my unborn child. I want to cry, but the tears just won't come. The blood kept spreading, staining the cold asphalt with a glaring crimson. Bystanders began to gather around. Someone call an ambulance. That was the last thing I heard before I blacked out. 8. I woke up, the doctor told me with an apologetic look. The baby is gone, and because I had already miscarried once before, I can never get pregnant again. Tears fell silently. Suddenly, an image flashed in my mind, the boy holding me, his face flushed with shyness. If we ever have a child, let's name them Pei Iwan. Once I understood what he meant, I let out a silly giggle and buried myself in his embrace. Love late. It's just a shame that he and I can never have children. The day after our wedding, I waited for him to come home, my face flushed with anticipation, but when he saw me, he sneered. Lin Wan, you have no shame. Is this how you seduce other men? It was only that one night, my connection with Pei Su was severed, completely, and finally picking up my phone, I finally saw the flood of missed calls. Only then did I think of my father. I called the attending physician back, about to ask how my father was doing and to say I was still trying my best to raise the money. I didn't even have time to grieve for the child who had already passed away. He said with a hint of disappointment, "Where were you yesterday? We couldn't reach you on the phone." Late last night. Your father's condition suddenly worsened. We performed emergency treatment, but it was already too late. I'm sorry. If you could have paid for the surgery sooner, your father might not have died. It hit me like a bolt from the blue, and my head spun. My last remaining family member was gone 6 years ago. Pei Su and I were seniors in college, deeply in love and planning to get married, but then, out of nowhere, my mother was diagnosed with cancer. The surgery was incredibly expensive, and my parents were just ordinary factory workers. There was simply no way we could come up with that kind of money for the operation and the follow-up treatments. Even when the doctors told us the chances of a full recovery were slim, neither my father nor I ever considered giving up. I had planned to tell Pei Su this news, but seeing how overwhelmed he was with securing a job after graduation, I had no choice but to bear it alone in silence. I started juggling multiple jobs by myself. One night while working a part-time shift at a bar, Jiangqi took a liking to me. He told me to follow him. He offered me 100,000 a month. I turned him down. Jiangqi didn't say anything else and drove me home in his sports car. He gave me a business card before leaving. He told me to call him if I changed my mind. I threw the card in the trash, but my dad found it. My dad begged me through tears to save Mom. Dad knows you love Pei Su, but she's your mother. I still didn't agree. It wasn't until that day, while I was in class at school, that I received the critical condition notice from the hospital, along with the news that my father had also fallen ill and been hospitalized. I gave in. My parents loved and cared for me since I was a child, working tirelessly to raise me. How could I possibly stand by and watch them come to real harm? Besides, Pei Su is an orphan with no one to rely on. Carrying this burden alone is enough for me. I don't want him to live a life devoid of self, just chasing money by my side. So I broke up with him. Pei Su loved me deeply back then. He stood outside my dormitory for 3 whole days, refusing even a drop of water. He didn't collapse until he saw me get into Jiangqi's sports car with his own eyes. After that, he and I never crossed paths again. I only heard from friends that Pei Su vanished without a trace after graduation. Little did I expect to meet him again, and I certainly never imagined that all of this was his deliberate design. What he wanted was to see me fall from grace, to crash down into the depths, but what he never understood is that every single day since we broke up, I've been living in hell. My days are spent at the hospital, caring for my parents. Tonight, I have to face Jiangqi's furious outburst. Countless times, I thought about ending it all. Later, after undergoing surgery, my mother's condition was stable for less than half a year before it took a turn for the worse. The cancer had metastasized. Before she passed, Mom held my hand and wouldn't let go. Wan Wan, it's my fault for dragging you down. I'm so sorry. You're Father and I are to blame for ruining your chance at happiness. I wept uncontrollably in the hospital. My phone suddenly received a scheduled text message. The sender was my father. Juan. Dad regrets it. I shouldn't have forced you back then. Seeing how much you've suffered all these years has hurt me even more than it hurt you. It was because of this guilt that your mother's condition worsened. I've been in constant pain too. I'm stopping treatment. Death is the cleanest end. I don't want to stand in the way of my daughter's happiness anymore. Don't worry, I'm going to find your mother. Don't be sad, be good to Pei Su, and don't be sad. As long as Pei Su treats you well, I can die in peace. Signed, your loving dad. I cried my heart out all these years, no matter how hard or exhausting it got. Even when I thought about death, I have never regretted it. Even if I had to choose again, I would still give up Pei Su to save my mother. I hate Jiangqi, and I hate how unjust this world is, yet I have never blamed my parents for a single day. I'm just so tired now. I have no family left in this world. 9. After my father's funeral was over, I returned to that house once more, the house that was never truly mine. I came to tell Pei Su a proper goodbye, to put a final period on all these years of our relationship, only to witness him holding another woman on the couch. Yet, my heart no longer aches, as if it were already dead. What? Finally decided to come back. I told you, you'd never give up the golden ticket of being my girlfriend. I extended my hand, my face expressionless. Pei Su, let's break up. To my surprise, Pei Su didn't agree. He set the person in his arms down. With long strides, he walked up to me, bringing a gust of biting cold wind. His eyes were filled with rage. He raised his hand and choked my neck with force. In that instant, I truly believed he wanted me dead, but perhaps death would be a relief. All I felt was relief, seeing I wouldn't fight back. He seemed to lose interest. He suddenly let me go. I gasped for air like a fish out of water. Don't even think about running away from me. Didn't you say you loved me? Didn't you say you regretted leaving? And now you can't even be bothered to pretend anymore. I ignored his fury, looked him straight in the eye, and calmly cut him off. Pei Su, I don't regret ending things with you. I'm tired, give me a break. Pei Su smiled. He was about to say something. His phone suddenly rang. He picked it up and glanced at the screen. His expression abruptly changed. He began to laugh uncontrollably. I was laughing so hard I couldn't stand up straight. In the end, he slapped me hard across the face. Now I finally understand why you wanted to break up with me. Guess what I saw? I can't guess. I just stared at him blankly. Pei Su placed the phone in front of me. In the photo, Jiangqi was walking into the hotel with her arm linked in mine. A sudden fear gripped me. I snatched his phone and threw it to the ground, stomping on it viciously. It wasn't me. Don't look, Pei Su. It's really not what you think. His gaze felt like a knife cutting through me. You're disgusting, Lin Wan. I never knew you were into this sort of thing. No wonder you broke up with me back then. It wasn't just about the money, was it? You should have said so sooner. I could have seen you for who you are and let you go, couldn't I? Pei Su pinned me against the wall. The crimson fury in his eyes terrified me. It reminded me of the brutal and twisted Jiangqi. No, please, Pei Su, I'm begging you, don't do this to me. What will it take for you to let me go? Pei Su, I cried. I think the wound in my heart will never heal. Once torn open by him, it oozed disgusting pus and blood, and will never be right again. Pei Su was panting heavily. He leaned close to my ear. Lin Wan, just go ahead and die. Maybe then I'll let you go. I thought to myself, yeah, maybe I should just die, then the pain would stop. I asked him naively, really, Pei Su, if I die, you'll forgive me? He froze for a moment. The movement of his hand stilled. He sneered coldly, I'm letting you go, not forgiving you. Lin Wan, even if you die, I will never forgive you. In this lifetime, don't even think about escaping me. A gaping hole was torn open in my chest. A bitter wind howled past. I couldn't help but tremble. I spoke my final words to him. Don't hate me, Pei Su. Actually, there's one more thing I haven't said. In my entire life, I have only ever loved you. 10. The day I died, it was the same heavy rain as the day I broke up with Pei Su, but maybe it's for the best. Perhaps these 6 years can now be dismissed as just a dream. I climbed to the top of the highest tower. That was a place Pei Su used to take me to often when he was in university. It was right there that he confessed his feelings to me that year. We didn't have the painful history between us that we do now. We only had eyes for each other under the shimmering starlight. We made the most sincere promises to each other. He said he would give me a home right after graduation. He said I am his home wherever I am. That's where home is. He also said I was his only family left, and that I must never abandon him, no matter what. My phone suddenly rang. I picked it up and saw it was a friend request from a stranger. Who could it be? Looking at the profile picture, it bears a slight resemblance to my younger self. As if possessed, I clicked agree. A few pictures came through. I looked at the man and woman in the picture. My breath caught in my Throat sis, thank you for letting Pei Su go for me. Pei Su really does love me. My gaze fell on the photo she had just sent. A massive diamond ring adorned the slender, snow-white ring finger of the woman, delicate as a spring onion, yet my own hand remained bare. Indeed, I had followed Pei Su for 3 years, yet there was never any promise. I was never the one he wanted to marry. Getting back together was just his way of humiliating me. Now that he's found his true love, it's time for him to move on to someone else. I closed my eyes and gently placed the phone on the rooftop. I climbed up. The breeze was gentle, just like the promise the boy whispered in my ear that day. I smiled faintly. I offered an apology into the void. I'm sorry, Pei Su. I have to leave you behind again. 11. Pei Su drove home late at night. He wanted to see Lin Wan and Lin Wan, but at the final moment, clarity returned. This body felt as if she had locked it away. Only she held the key. Pei Su cursed under his breath. He returned home to a deathly silence. Seeing the breakup text on his phone, he was reminded of Lin Wan's previous talk of ending things. Furious, he slammed the phone to the ground and stomped on it several times. Pei Su felt a surge of grim satisfaction. Lying in bed, he felt something was missing. Lin Wan hadn't come back. Where had she gone? Could she have gone to Jiang Qi's place again? At this thought, Pei Su was consumed by rage. He no longer loved Lin Wan, but he would never allow her to betray him again. With this in mind, he drove furiously to the Jiang residence. When he saw Jiang Qi again, Pei Su could barely restrain the urge to kill him. When he saw the anonymous photo sent to his phone, his immediate thought was to kill him, but he hated Lin Wan even more. He genuinely wanted to strangle her right then and then follow her in death. But when he saw that look of fearless resolve on her face, a sudden fear gripped him. How could Lin Wan die? He was going to torment her, over and over again. Jiang Qi saw him, frowned, and said nothing. I'm looking for Lin Wan. Jiang Qi raised an eyebrow. She's your person, why come to me? Pei Su pressed a hand to his throbbing temple. I still haven't settled the score with you for what happened last time, he said through gritted teeth. Jiang Qi suddenly remembered that day. He spat out the word with contempt. She came to me first, asking for $1 million. She got scared and ran off almost immediately. I let her go, you know. But I heard she got into a car accident on the way home and had a miscarriage. That's not on me. What? Pei Su's mind went blank with a deafening roar. I asked him instinctively, what did you say? Say that again. She had a miscarriage after being hit by a car. It wasn't my fault. Jiang Qi's words were cut short. Pei Su's fist was already swinging towards him. Not just once. Pei Su was straddling Jiang Qi, pummeling his face with blow after blow. If Zhang's family hadn't rushed over and pulled him away, he would likely have been beaten to death by Pei Su. And so, Pei Su went to the police station with Jiang Qi. The officer in charge immediately scowled upon seeing Jiang Qi's face. He was a regular here, no stranger to brawls and fights, but as the young master of the Jiang family, he had money. Even if someone ended up maimed or seriously injured, he could always settle it with cash. The strange thing is, it was actually the young master of the Jiang family who got beaten today. If the police at the station hadn't held them back, the two would have almost started fighting again. Pei Su said with a cold face. He deserved it. He thought for a moment, but in the end, nothing came out. What's his position on this? Lin Wan only went to him for the $1 million. She had begged him for that $1 million too, to beg for the loan. She even endured prolonged humiliation from the crowd, slapped her own face, and knelt before him pleading. But didn't I also refuse to lend the money? If I had lent it, Lin Wan wouldn't have gone to find him, and she wouldn't have been hit by a car and miscarried because she was so distracted. Suddenly, his heart skipped a beat. Could it really be that her father was in trouble and needed money? In their 3 years together, Lin Wan had never once mentioned her parents, and he certainly never brought it up himself. He remembered that Lin Wan's father and mother had a very good relationship. It was only natural for her to be worried when one of them fell suddenly ill. Pei Su suddenly felt the urge to call and ask her about it. But there was nothing to be done. Being at the police station. 12. Suddenly, the officer in front of me received a phone call. His expression changed. He called a few other people over. He instructed one of the young officers to handle the case, then he took the others away. Oh, what a pity, such a young girl, and she had to go and jump to her death. What a tragedy. She was gone before the ambulance even arrived. There was no saving her. She jumped from such a height. That's the tallest tower in K City. A sudden pang of pain shot through Pei Su's chest. He instinctively grabbed the police officer's arm and asked anxiously, what was that girl's name? The police officer gave him a suspicious look. The deceased reportedly had no identification on them. We'll have to run a comparison later. Pei Su breathed a sigh of relief. He tried to reassure himself. How is that possible? He immediately called his assistant. Investigate Lin Wan's whereabouts immediately and find her for me. Also, check for me whether Lin Wan's father is in the hospital. After finishing his statement at the police station, Pei Su was released not long after. Before leaving, Jiang Qi shouted menacingly, "You just wait, I'm not done with you." Pei Su replied coldly, "Likewise." That night, he never managed to fall into a peaceful sleep. He didn't even answer the several calls from Lin Wan. He was plagued by a series of nightmares. In one, Lin Wan coldly declared she was breaking up with him, remaining unmoved no matter how desperately he pleaded. For a moment, Lin Wan stood before him, her face deathly pale and her body covered in blood. He jolted awake, gasping for air. He checked his phone. It was still the early hours of the morning. He immediately called his assistant again. The assistant sounded a bit aggrieved after being woken up. He simply didn't have time to deal with it. The assistant informed him that Lin Wan's whereabouts were difficult to trace and it wouldn't be quick. However, Lin Wan's mother had passed away 6 years ago, and her father had just died a few days prior. Pei Su was not only astonished but also broke out in a cold sweat. So, was it true after all, that incident a few days ago, when Lin Wan knelt before him begging to borrow $1 million, her father really was ill? It was to save him that she had gone to Jiangqi. Pei Su felt the whole world spinning. He frantically called Lin Wan, "Please, pick up." If only Lin Wan would just talk to him now. He was willing to spend a lifetime making it up to her. He no longer cared about any of the past, no matter the reasons behind her actions, as long as she. But the phone just kept ringing, unanswered. Finally, at last, the call was picked up. A surge of joy washed over him. He was just about to confess his feelings to Lin Wan, but then, he heard a somewhat familiar man's voice. "What was your relationship to the deceased?" 13. Pei Su hung up the phone. He flung the phone far away. His mind was filled with the words just spoken. What was your relationship to the deceased? He couldn't believe it. How is that even possible? Just the other day, this person was full of life right in front of me, and now they're suddenly gone. Lin Wan, how could she be gone? Pei Su suddenly recalled Lin Wan's words echoing in his ears. "Really, Pei Su, if I die, will you finally forgive me?" When he saw the photo of Lin Wan entering the hotel with someone else, his heart felt utterly shattered. That's why he said those hurtful things. He completely failed to notice the vacant, distant look in Lin Wan's eyes. Dead? How could that be? Pei Su still couldn't bring himself to go to the police station to claim Lin Wan's body. He shut himself away. Lin Wan found his house. Pei Su thought it was Lin Wan finally returning. He flung the door open in excitement, but when he saw the visitor clearly, he realized it wasn't her. "Get out, don't come back. Wan Wan will be upset if she sees you," Lin Wan said with a smile. "But I am Wan Wan." You're not Wan Wan. You're not her." Pei Su retreated into his room, but the police weren't letting him off the hook. They issued an ultimatum. As the boyfriend, he had to deal with the body. Left with no choice, Pei Su had his assistant claim the deceased Lin Wan and have the body cremated. From the very beginning, he refused to believe that Lin Wan was dead. Seeing him in this state, his assistant could only shake his head. "Mr. Pei, I know you don't want to hear this, but I must tell you, according to my investigation, Lin Wan's mother was diagnosed with terminal cancer 6 years ago. Miss Lin took on multiple jobs to earn money, and I believe her decision to leave you is connected to this. Unfortunately, Miss Lin's mother's condition worsened after the surgery, and she passed away." Pei Su yelled at him to get out. He was laughing and crying at the same time. He was acting like a madman. The assistant, somewhat helpless, continued trying to reason with him. "Mr. Pei, the company's affairs are still waiting for you to handle. You were unwilling to treat Miss Lin well when she was alive. You wouldn't even lend her money for her father's medical treatment. Now that she's gone, what's the point of all this? The living still have to go on living, don't they?" Pei Su suddenly raised his head. The dark circles under his eyes startled his assistant. He feels that the current Mr. Pei is no longer the decisive, cool-headed, and rational man he once was in the business world. "What do you know? Wan Wan can't be dead. How could she ever leave me? She wouldn't. After his attempts at persuasion proved futile, the assistant sighed and left. After a moment of silence, he set down a phone and departed. It was a long while before Pei Su walked over and picked up the phone. When it powered on, the familiar photo made his eyes well up. It was 6 years ago, when Pei Su and Lin Wan were deeply in love. They smiled warmly for the camera. Pei Su opened the photo album. To his surprise, all the photos they had taken when they were in love were still there. The one where Lin Wan, blushing, leaned in for a photo on her birthday. The one under the stars, where Pei Su made a solemn promise to her, their noses almost touching. And the one where Lin Wan woke up in his arms, and he secretly captured her adorable, sleepy-eyed expression. So very many memories came flooding back, and Pei Su violently coughed up a mouthful of blood. It stained the phone red. With a faint smile, Pei Su wiped the phone screen clean with his deathly pale fingertips. With trembling hands, he opened her memo. Lin Wan had a habit of keeping a diary, but she never let him read it. Lin Wan once said, "On the day we get married, I'll let you read all of my diaries. Later, he ended up with her. Just as he had hoped, but not to treat her well. It was revenge. Pei-su watched all night long. He watched until despair set in. So, she had suffered this much all along, and what had I done? What else had he done? Besides bullying and humiliating her after gaining power, he hadn't even tried to find out why Linwan left in the first place. He feared she was truly after his money, yet he also feared she wasn't. Torn and conflicted, he chose to blind himself to the truth. He ignored the profound love for him, hidden in every detail, that Linwan so clearly felt. Pei-su, don't hate me. These were Linwan's final words to him, yet he saw the last sentence Linwan had written in her memo. Pei-su, the truth is, I've only ever loved you, but now, I don't love you anymore. Let's never see each other again. Alive or dead, let each other go. Those words sent a chill through his entire body, as if plunged into an icy cellar. It felt as if his chest had been sliced open with a knife, his heart ripped out while he was still alive. Pei-su suddenly realized that the pain described as heart-wrenching was all too real. He felt he might die from the agony, yet he wasn't afraid. This way, he could go find her. He wanted to go and apologize to Wan. He had so much he wanted to say to her, the longing hidden beneath the resentment. It washed over him, overwhelming and all-consuming. It was suffocating him. Now, all he wanted was to make up for all those lost years. If only he had the chance. In a daze, he saw the young Linwan and himself. He smiled and extended his hand, but no matter how hard he tried, they drifted further and further apart. The assistant called Pei-su the next day. No one answered. He arrived at the villa entrance once more, after knocking for a long time with no answer, and fearing he might do something drastic. The assistant forced the door open. Pei-su was found dead inside the villa. He was still holding Linwan's phone when he died. The medical examiner concluded that Pei-su died of a broken heart. So it's true, someone can actually die from the shock of a broken heart. The assistant fell silent. In the end, the assistant wanted to bury Pei-su and